Танк горит, раненые, кто убитый. А я стал открывать люк, перед свой механик-водитель, а он заклинен. А уже гарь, я не могу уже дышать. Там тут как раз наткнулся, человек лежит. Я подтащил его уже по инерции, как говорится, к этому башенному люку. Это оказался заряжающий Саша. Он толкнул, и мы вместе с Сашкой головой, я ударился в эту броню и лежим. Только я опомнился, схватил его, метров 10 отбежал, и танк взорвался.
That tank was destroyed. But in Nizhny Tagil, work on the next had already begun. The factory never stopped. Boys and girls stood at the machines alongside the adults. Nina Pernach was one of them. In the autumn of 1941, she was just 18. She would never forget those first months in Nizhny Tagil. The iron, tempered by the frost, burned our bare hands. We hauled machine tools and equipment off the railway platforms, dragged everything into the workshops, and dug foundation pits. In those days, there was no task the young would shy away from. Throughout that first wartime winter, workers built the machine shops. Temperatures plummeted to minus 40 degrees centigrade. People worked in the open air, desperate to get tanks to the front as quickly as possible. The first T-34s were assembled with components taken from Kharkov. In December, 25 machines built in Nizhny Tagil were sent to the front. At plant number 183, yesterday's school children worked with seasoned men. Many dreamed of the front line. But the engineers and foremen told them, this factory is a front too, a labor front. Yakov Migal also dreamed of going to war. In 1941, he was a short, wiry lad, not yet 16. That November, he arrived at the Ural Tank Works. They put him on a massive lathe. He couldn't reach the controls, so they stood him on an empty ammunition crate. Within months, Yakov hadn't just learned the trade. He'd become one of the best. Certain parts were entrusted only to him. He taught himself to switch the machine on with his toe, poking out through a hole in his boot. A passing officer noticed, and the next morning, as a column of tanks was headed out, handed him a gift for building such fine machines: a new pair of soldier's boots. From December 1941 until May 1945, Ural Tank Factory number 183 produced 25,914 T-34 tanks. That's more than all of the factories in Central Europe that worked for Nazi Germany combined. Behind that number lie years of unyielding toil and human endurance.
Я бы не сказала, что это подвиг, и никто не считал. Все, что делалось, это делалось из-за того, что нужно, что нельзя это было не делать, не надо было указывать, контролировать, все вместе, то есть это было единение.
Despite her father's high position, 11-year-old Dina and her classmates were sent to do agricultural work. She learned to milk cows, clear manure, and till the soil. Milk, vegetables, grain, everything went to the front lines. Once the Germans were pushed back from Moscow, the girls helped at the hospital near Kievsky railway station. They mopped floors and cared for the wounded. In those years, no one divided children into ordinary and privileged.
Мы не знали, что такое детство. Все для фронта, все для победы. А для меня это был флаг, на который я смотрела, и даже сейчас я, как пионер, отдаю честь. Слава нашему народу! Слава нашей победе!
The country was at war, as was the capital. Konstantin Simonov wrote, Moscow's population had thinned. Some went to the front, others to defense work. But those who remained did the work of 3 or 4 people. It seemed the entire city had shifted to a barracks-like state, especially teenagers in the winter of 1941 and 42. They were everywhere. They replaced their fathers at the factories making submachine guns, grenades and shells, stood duty in hospitals and at air defense posts. They too were defenders of Moscow.
In 1940, after France had been defeated by Hitler's troops, about 120,000 soldiers from the French colonies were captured by German forces. The Nazis looked at black prisoners of war most despairingly. During the 4 years of captivity, many Africans died in German concentration camps. In 1944, the survivors were liberated by the Allied forces and sent home. However, their homeland welcomed them coldly. The French did not consider soldiers from the colonies equal and looked at them in the same way as the Nazis did. On December 1, 1944, Senegalese tirailleurs demanded that the colonial authorities of the Tiaroy military camp pay them the wages and the compensation they were owed. The French command accused them of mutiny and decided to deal with the dissatisfied by force. The unarmed Senegalese were shot. The authorities announced 35 deaths, but the Senegalese historians believe that the death toll actually reached as high as 300 dead. France repaid its defenders with blatant ingratitude. The dreadful massacre in Tiaroy became the embodiment of colonial injustice and racial inequality. Until now, Paris has refused to provide Senegal with all the documents about the terrible crime.
As early as August 31st, 1941, a list of strategic enterprises in Moscow and the region slated for evacuation had been prepared. 498 enterprises were sent to the rear, including the ZIS plant, the Serpimolot metallurgical plant, and Geophysica and Moskobel, and the Gorbanov aviation plants. But the capital's contribution was measured by more than just factory floors. All of Moscow joined in to aid the front. School children collected scrap metal, thousands of tons in the first months of the war alone. It was used to cast shells for the front. The entire country joined the effort. Young and old alike were ready to give their last, so that those on the front would want for nothing.
Дорогая мамочка, не беспокойся, все у меня хорошо. Только вот беда, танк мой искалечен, а жалко, хорошая была машина.
This is a letter from hero of the Soviet Union, Vasily Orlov, to his mother. Today it's preserved in the Orlov Museum in Moscow's Marina Rosha district. Valentina Bushkovskaya works in the museum collecting and preserving Orlov's history through documents, photographs, letters, and frontline testimonies.
Конечно же, своего ребенка всегда хочется защитить. А что надежнее для танкиста? Конечно же, броня.
Maria Orlova gathered every valuable item in the house: household silver, family heirlooms, her husband's awards, including a saber and a cigarette case, a gift from Mikhail Frunze, and wrote a letter to Stalin asking that the money raised from selling the items be used for a tank to be built and sent to her son's unit.
И вот есть строчки такого стихотворения. «Поклон тебе, мама, за русских ребят, за деньги свои ты в броню их одела. И танк тот, не зная невзгод и преград, сражался за правое дело».
The crew wrote Motherland on the tank's turret. passed through Poland, and in May 1945 entered Berlin, destroying 18 enemy tanks and armored vehicles in various battles. After the victory, the tank was placed on a pedestal on the Soviet forces' garrison in Germany, Eberswalde. Decades later, after Soviet troops withdrew from Germany, the tank was returned to Russia. It stands today on a pedestal in Saratov. On December the 30th, 1942, Patriarchal Locum Tenens Metropolitan Sergius appealed to his flock to raise donations for a tank column named after Dmitry Donskoy. A special account was opened at the state bank. Donations came from all over the country, even where no functioning church remained. In a short time, more than 8 million rubles were raised.
Пусть славное имя Дмитрия Донского ведет нас на битву за русскую землю. Вперед к победе!
In the spring of 1944, a column of 40 tanks was transferred to the army near Tula. The memory of that event has been preserved in more than just documents. It was also commemorated in paintings of the Dmitry Donskoy Church in Nizhny Tagil. A mural on its south wall depicts tankmen, workers, and scenes of public fundraising.
Здесь мы молимся за Урал-вагонзаводцев, которые совершили трудовой и в том числе и боевой подвиг. Если мы посмотрим на самый верх этой иконы, то мы видим, что там воинство небесное во главе с архистратигом Божиим Михаилом. Потому что битва, они же совершаются не только на земле. Любая битва, она имеет и духовное начало. Тем более, если мы возьмем фашистскую идеологию, то мы знаем о том, что она носила такой античеловеческий, мистический характер. Одно из таких, скажем, проявлений сатанизма. Вот этот вот весь народ Божий, собравшийся под предводительством небесного воинства, сокрушает врагов. И мы видим горящий Reichstag, поверженные, сломанные немецкие танки. Мы видим фашистов в аду. И в то же время мы видим народ Божий, видим солдат, видим танки, которые идут в атаку. Они идут из-за гор. А что такое гора в иконописи? Гора в иконописи – это прежде всего символ духовного возрастания. Видим Урал-вагонзавод и видим, как из облака с небес рука Божия благословляет русских людей на подвиг.
The whole country stood up to help the front. But in the Urals, the movement took on a special form. Residents of Sverdlovsk, Chelyabinsk, and Molotov regions didn't just work for the front line, but chose to form an entire new tank unit. People in the Urals were prepared not to just build machines, but drive them into battle.
Поток заявлений о просьбе зачислить состав корпуса пошел со всех 3 областей, то есть каждый горел порывом. Кто-то хотел отомстить за убиенного брата, кто-то за отца, кто-то за мать, за сестру.
More than 120,000 people volunteered. 9,661 joined the unit. It was a rare case when the home front and the vanguard came together, literally. Then the slogan was born. Go over the plan and make extra tanks to send into battle. The Corps received its baptism by fire in the summer of 1943 on the Kursk-Urel front. The first battle was tough. Losses were serious, but the Corps didn't falter. It liberated Urals and Bryansk, then reached Berlin. The Corps received the title of Guard Unit. Tens of thousands of its soldiers won medals, including 38 recognized heroes of the Soviet Union. It was a unit born in the workshops, which lasted to the very end of the war.
Сила в единстве, величайшее единение усилий. Ученые, инженеры, конструкторы, рабочие. И вообще успехи нашей армии, они ковались в этом великом единстве усилий тыла, надежного тыла и фронта.
It wasn't only workers and engineers who answered the call to help the front lines. Writers, poets, and artists did their part. During the war, they helped the common cause with more than words by bringing life to the tank known as Merciless.
Беспощадный снова идет разить врага.
История этого танка, она довольно естественная для того времени, когда художники, писатели помогали фронту. И мой отец, потом Самуил Маршак, художники Кукрыниксы, поэт Николай Тихонов и Виктор Гусев, они свои сталинские премии, то есть денежный эквивалент сталинской премии, они передали на строительство танка. Он был назван «Беспощадный». Это был танк КВ-1, на борту которого была карикатура Кукрыниксов, где погибает Гитлер. И было написано маленькое стихотворение. Оно звучало так. «Штурмовой огонь веди, наш тяжелый танк, в тыл фашисту заходи, бей его во фланг, экипаж бесстрашный свой, не смыкая глаз, выполняет боевой Родины приказ». Этот танк действительно был знаменитым. За ним числится достаточно большое количество трофеев. Он был несколько раз подбит, его отправляли в ремонт. И на ремонт тоже эти поэты, художники и писатели дали деньги, чтобы его отремонтировать. На вечную стоянку Бесстрашный стал в городе Острожске Воронежской области, где родился Самуил Яковлевич Маршак, и до сих пор там стоит. Я, следуя примеру отца своего, свою премию, которую я получил, премию «Слово», 3 миллиона рублей, тоже попросил передать на нужды СВО. Единственное, что мне хотелось бы точно знать, на что были эти деньги потрачены. Так что я считаю, что, в принципе, когда страна находится в военном положении, те, кто понимают и верят в значение этих действий, в силу своих возможностей, должны помогать своей армии. Это делают и старушки, отдавая какие-то свои гроши. Это делают ребята, это делают школьники. Я считаю, что, в принципе, это не может быть только делом солдат и офицеров. Это дело страны.
One great symbol of victory is the mighty T-34. It stands on pedestals all around Russia, from Kaliningrad to Vladivostok. Almost 400 have become monuments. They honor the memory of those who created them and those who drove them to victory. They once stood in Ukraine too. The only survivors are in the now Russian Artyomovsk. This tank serves as a symbol of victory over Nazism now, as well as over German fascists in 1945.
Помню, когда я первый раз увидел этот постамент среди полностью разрушенного, обезличенного пейзажа такого апокалиптического. Танк внутри этого всего ада, да, он не так сильно пострадал, то есть, да, где-то там краска облупилась, конечно, у него, и там постамент был местами разрушен, но танк был целый. И было такое ощущение, что в него сейчас вот можно сесть, заправить его, и он поедет дальше добывать победу.
The T-34 will forever remain a symbol of victory and unity. Russian grandfathers sat behind the levers of the Victory T-34 to defend their right to live. Today, their grandchildren drive T-90s, defending Russia's right to exist.
Феномен силы русского духа по-прежнему существует. Вот эта внутренняя сила, которая возникает, когда люди становятся друг другу братьями, и только это зачастую помогает им выжить.
The link between generations is inseparable, as long as we remember the power of unity. 2026 has been declared the year of unity for the people of Russia. It's not just another date, but a banner. Russia went into battle under it then, and with it, is headed for victory now.
Take a fresh look around at life. Kaleidoscopic, isn't it? A shattered reality distorted by power. Tired vision with no real opinions. Pictures designed to simplify or confuse. Who really wants a better world? And is it just for the chosen few? Fractured images presented as fact. Can you see through their illusions? Going underground can.
Governmental agencies are like organisms. They're bureaucratic organisms. And what every organism seeks to do is to survive and to grow. And they adapt in order to accomplish that.
Russia confirms a 3-day ceasefire with Ukraine has begun after a proposal by the U.S. president. Moscow says the deal follows the recent Putin-Trump call where the two leaders hailed the role of their allied nations in World War II. The Russian capital welcomes foreign leaders ahead of the Victory Day anniversary celebrations as Vladimir Putin says other officials are also welcome to join. And across the world, people honor the many millions who gave their lives to defeat the Nazis. Even in Europe, despite restrictions, crowds lay flowers at Soviet war memorials and march in the Immortal Regiment carrying portraits of relatives who fought in the deadliest war in human history. I'm Rachel Rubel. This is RT International live in Moscow. Thanks for joining us as we mark this May 9th, Victory Day. Victory Day, carved into the collective memory by blood and tears of a generation. It's not only a date on the calendar, but a beacon reminding of the courage, sacrifice, and the unbreakable will of a people who refused to surrender. Victory Day is about the great endeavors of the Soviet people. From the Battle of Moscow, where winter nights were lit up with massive bombings, the air was pierced with lead, and where the German blitzkrieg failed for the very first time. to the streets and waters of Stalingrad, soaked with the blood of more than 2 million people, where the Soviet victory turned the tide of war, sparking hope that the world would break free of Hitler's grasp. Victory Day is about paying tribute to heroes who defended a single strategically essential house against the might of the entire Wehrmacht for almost 2 months. Heroes who paid the ultimate price to hold the port of Sevastopol for 250 days and nights. And countless others as Russia and all the lands liberated by the Red Army, from Prague to Belgrade, from Vienna to Auschwitz, are covered in monuments to the colossal sacrifice, even as some are trying to erase these memories. But humanity won't forget that around 27 million Soviet citizens lost their lives. To see the Soviet flag hoisted over the Reichstag, marking the day of victory and the deliverance of the world from the Nazi plague. Today, as some parts of the world once again suffer from similar symptoms, Russia remembers and takes up the sword of its great ancestors who defeated Nazism. With their words echoing through history, our cause is just. The enemy will be defeated. Victory will be ours. Welcome to RT special coverage of the 81st anniversary of the Great Patriotic War. Russia confirms that a 3-day ceasefire with Ukraine has taken effect to mark the Victory Day celebrations. The truce will include a full cessation of hostilities, as well as a large-scale prisoner swap. The truce comes after a proposal from the U.S. president, which followed his call with Vladimir Putin. Both leaders underlined how their countries were allies during World War II against the Nazis. Well, here's the full statement from Vladimir Putin's foreign policy aide.
By order of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, I confirm the acceptability for the Russian side of the initiatives proposed by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, regarding a ceasefire for the exchange of prisoners of war between Russia and Ukraine. An agreement on this matter has been reached during our telephone contacts with the administration of the President of the United States. Representatives of the United States, in turn, have been in contact with Kiev. The main thing is that it has been agreed to carry out, during the ceasefire period from May 9th to May 11th, a prisoner exchange of 1,000 people from each side. We welcome this initiative, which builds upon the recent telephone conversation between the presidents of Russia and the United States, in which the leaders especially emphasized that our countries were allies during the years of World War II, and also discussed the possibility of a ceasefire during the Victory Day celebrations. Importantly, President Trump's initiative is timed precisely to mark the 81st anniversary of the victory over Nazism, our sacred holiday.
The Russian president discussed the Victory Day truce during a conversation with Donald Trump all the way back on April 29th. And Donald Trump not only supported the initiative, but he now, as we know, also declared a ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine that's supposed to begin on the 9th of May. This is his announcement.
I'm pleased to announce that there will be a 3-day ceasefire, May 9th, 10th, and 11th, in the war between Russia and Ukraine. The celebration in Russia is for Victory Day, but likewise in Ukraine, because they were also a big part and factor of World War II. This ceasefire will include a suspension of all kinetic activity, and also a prison swap of 1,000 prisoners from each country. This request was made directly by me, and I very much appreciate its agreement by President Vladimir Putin and President Volodymyr Zelensky. Hopefully, it is the beginning of the end of a very long, deadly, and hard-fought war.
Mind you, Russia, Vladimir Putin and the Defense Ministry announced the Victory Day ceasefire to begin a day earlier on the 8th of May, supposing to last until the 10th of May. Well, we have more news coming in following Donald Trump's announcements, as Zelensky announced that he also agrees to a ceasefire from the 9th until the 11th of May. He also agreed to a prisoner exchange suggested by Donald Trump, where 1,000 people will be swapped. Now, Russia had responded and also agreed to Trump's initiative on a truce and prisoner exchange, according to the president's aide, Yuri Ushakov. The Kremlin stressed the importance of the fact that this initiative is timed to coincide with the 81st anniversary of a victory over Nazism.
I would like to congratulate you on the approaching anniversary of Victory Day in the Great Patriotic War. We constantly keep this issue at a heightened level of attention, both in our dialogue with our colleagues and friends in the People's Republic of China, in India, and in other countries of the anti-Hitler coalition. Incidentally, this issue was recently discussed during a telephone conversation with the President of the United States. We recalled how we fought together against Nazism and prevailed together. Leaders of countries friendly to Russia have personally arrived for the Victory Day celebrations and will take part in the ceremonial events on Saturday.
Now, after Russia announced its ceasefire beginning on the 8th of May, Ukraine committed a terrorist act, and Vladimir Putin called the recent actions by Kiev, just as they were, undeniably terrorist. The attack on the Rostov Regional Air Traffic Control Center could have had an impact on the safety of hundreds of civil aircrafts. Fortunately, a tragedy was avoided early in the morning as a result of the highly professional work of the air traffic controllers. Take a listen.
The Kiev regime has committed yet another act that is unquestionably terrorist in nature. It struck the Rostov Regional Air Traffic Control Center. This could certainly have affected the safety of civilian aircraft. Fortunately, no tragic events occurred as a result, thanks to the highly professional work of our air traffic controllers.
Now, Deputy Prime Minister Savelyev reported that 3 strikes were carried out between 4:15 and 5:45 a.m. against the building of the Regional Air Traffic Control Center in Rostov-on-Don. Now, following the strikes, all air traffic service procedures were carried out in an emergency mode and were transferred to individual airfield control centers. Now, thanks to the security service, this staff in Rostov was evacuated to bomb shelters, and miraculously, there were no human casualties. Savelyev added that air traffic in the Rostov region will be restored in full within 2 to 3 days. As the result of that terrorist attack, 13 airports had to close as the result, and that included Krasnodar, Sochi, Grozny, and many others. Instructions were given to airports and airlines to organize alternative bus and railway services for passengers before the air traffic control center is restored to full capacity in 2 to 3 days. Now, some airports have already resumed operations, but once again, they will be fully functional very soon. The attack took place as the ceasefire was announced by Vladimir Putin just a few hours after that. Meanwhile, during this day on Friday, at least 46 drones were intercepted and destroyed on the way to Moscow, according to Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, after the start of the ceasefire. Now, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that during the course of the day, well over 200 drones were downed elsewhere in Russia. Air defenses in at least 15 different regions were activated to intercept and destroy the UAVs. Now, Zelensky's initial threat to attack the Victory Day parade in Moscow was voiced at the European Political Community Summit in Armenia in front of multiple world leaders who, they didn't even flinch after hearing those terrorist threats, including the host, Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. Now, Armenia's ambassador to Russia was later summoned to the Russian Foreign Ministry in Moscow, where he was told that it was unacceptable to provide such a platform for Zelensky to voice terrorist threats against Russia. Meanwhile, Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Maria Zakharova noted that Russia's Victory Day ceasefire initiative that was supported by Washington initially caused a somewhat nervous and hysterical reaction in Kiev. Obviously, now we know that Zelensky agreed to everything. According to Zakharova, Zelensky clumsily tried to belittle the importance of this initiative and then began hinting at possible drone strikes on the Victory Day parade in Moscow. Zakharova also mentioned that Zelensky was literally disgusted by the mention of any events in Moscow that have to do with a victory over fascism. Now, Zakharova stressed yet again that a response would follow immediately in the event of an attack from Kiev on the Victory Day parade. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin has greeted some leaders of foreign countries in Moscow and also already congratulated everyone on the upcoming Victory Day anniversary.
On the eve of the big date, several top officials touched down in the Russian capital. Among them, the leaders of Kazakhstan, Belarus, Malaysia, Laos, Uzbekistan, Slovakia, and others. The dignitaries will attend commemorations on Saturday, while several also took part in Friday's build-up events. President Putin stressed that Moscow did not specifically invite anyone, and all the guests made their own decisions to come, while the Russian capital welcomes all those who choose to do so. Well, Vladimir Putin held bilateral talks with several fellow leaders at the Kremlin on Friday, including the president of Belarus, who underlined their common history and values.
Mr. Lukashenko, I am very pleased to see you on the eve of what I consider to be the most important holiday for our peoples, Victory Day in the Great Patriotic War, the victory of the Soviet people. Belarus was one of the countries hit hardest during the war. It is a former Soviet republic, so it's symbolic that the head of the Belarusian state is here with us today and will be with us tomorrow.
Mr. Putin, first of all, thank you for the invitation. Even if I weren't looking forward to seeing you, I would have come anyway. It's a joyful, bright holiday. Still, I can't shake these thoughts that some of our friends and neighbors, with whom we lived in the same country, for some reason refuse to recognize these holidays, especially our Belarusian neighbors there. I keep wondering, the question always comes up, why are they doing this? This is such an achievement of ours. Our ancestors saved us back then. They saved us from the brown plague, and not just Europe, they saved the whole world. It's clear what would have happened to us, and not just us. Our predecessors won that war. So why are we now seeing some people act like this? It already happened, it's our great legacy. That's our starting point. It's the legacy of Russians, Belarusians, and everyone from the former Soviet republics. Everyone fought, even if the war didn't reach everyone. But everyone had those who fought and died, by the tens, hundreds of thousands.
We didn't officially invite anyone. We simply said that we'd be happy to see anyone who wanted to come. I think this is particularly relevant and natural in the current situation, especially given the security concerns. So thank you for being here.
Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico is once again the only EU state leader who's in Moscow for May 9th. On Friday, he laid flowers at the tomb of the unknown soldier in the Alexander Garden near the Kremlin. Mr. Fico is also expected to meet Vladimir Putin for talks on Saturday. The Slovak premier said he's looking forward to promoting friendly ties, regardless of what some other Europeans may say.
The last thing I want to say is that despite the critical and crisis-ridden atmosphere in Europe, I'm a politician who prioritizes dialogue over strong words. And I care about normal, friendly, and standard relations between the Russian Federation and the Slovak Republic. There are also several practical issues. I hope that tomorrow there will be an opportunity to discuss these topics with President Putin.
Do you think you will have problems with the Europeans because you came here?
In the European Union, there are always some black sheep, the so-called black sheep of the family. I belong to this flock, the black sheep of the family. I say this everywhere, so I have no problem saying it here either. I am opposed to a single mandatory viewpoint. I think that such an approach is very wrong. I, too, often express views that do not align with the single viewpoint that we must express.
From Europe to Asia, people worldwide are honoring the many millions who gave their lives to defeat Nazi Germany. So named Immortal Regiment marches took place from Hanoi to Vilnius, Paris, Havana, and many more places, as people carried portraits of their ancestors who fought for freedom in mankind's deadliest war. The annual event takes place in Russia and beyond, with people even turning out in some states where governments don't respect Soviet history. Well, plenty more updates and stories on our website, where you can dive deeper into the war's history to find out what makes May 9th so special for many millions of people in Russia and beyond. It's all waiting for you online at rt.com. The raising of the Soviet flag over the Reichstag is one of the great symbolic moments in history, marking the USSR's victory in the Battle of Berlin. 8 decades later, the memory of the soldiers who raised that banner is being kept alive. RT correspondent Anastasia Voladina spoke with the great-grandson of a man who took part in this immortal event.
A single image, a turning point in history. Among the men behind it, Militon Kantaria, a Soviet soldier of Georgian origin, born in 1920 and served in the Red Army during World War II as part of the 150th Rifle Division, a unit that played a key role in the final assault on Berlin.
This is the very flag that came to define the end of World War II. May 1945, Soviet forces pushed through Berlin, fighting street by street towards the Reichstag after days of brutal combat. After the smoke clears, it's this red banner that rose over the ruins, marking the defeat of Nazi Germany and the collapse of the Third Reich. The storming of the Reichstag was a Red Army operation to seize the German parliament building from Nazi forces, carried out in the final stage of the Berlin offensive between April 28th and May 2nd, 1945. Junior Sergeant Militon Kantaria stood alongside Sergeant Mikhail Yegorov under the command of Junior Lieutenant Alexei Berest. Together, the three hoisted the red banner over the Reichstag. The flag raised above the building quickly became more than a military act. It turned into a global symbol of victory over fascism, captured in images that came to define the end of the war. But beyond the iconic image, there's a human story behind. Decades later, Kantaria's relative is not only keeping his ancestors' legacy alive, but is also walking a similar path.
My father told me that Militon Kantaria didn't like to talk about his military career. He didn't like to talk about the difficulties he faced. Now that I'm taking part in the special military operation, I understand why it's difficult to talk about your military career.
While serving on the front lines, Georgi Kantaria, by a twist of fate, received a card from a woman, a card that once belonged to his great-grandfather, Militon Kantaria.
What can I say about the card? Well, it has its own story, which is why I even say that our citizens helped the front in every possible way. And when I found myself on the Artomovsk front, carrying out combat missions, I communicated closely with people from the city of Tver. They helped us with humanitarian aid, and once I approached them, they said they would not be able to fulfill my order in full. They said they would contact their colleagues in Moscow, so they did. And there, a woman named Tatiana Pavanina, who was also helping the front, found out about me. Without saying what it was, they told me that there was something for me, something family-related, that would be delivered along with humanitarian aid. She said there would be a marked box for me. So it came, and I opened it, and at first I was confused. I didn't know how to react. And now, it's like my lucky charm. It's always with me. She got it when she was 18, when she was studying at a medical school, and they were performing for veterans of the Great Patriotic War. And right there in the front row was Militon Kantaria himself. She was startled, and she stumbled while reciting the poem, "Wait for me and I'll come back." She said Lieutenant Kantaria came up to her on stage and gave her a hug. She said it was like being hugged by her own grandfather. She calmed down and recited the rest of the poem properly. Afterwards, in the lobby, he gave her his card, which she kept since 1982.
Serving on the front lines, Georgi Kantaria says that, in his view, today's fight echoes the one his great-grandfather faced in the Great Patriotic War.
We are also fighting fascism, Nazism, only in a different package, under a different name, with the same symbols, in most cases, on their armor and also on German armor. It's just that the tanks are more modern, but often the neo-Nazis, as they are now called, use the symbols of Hitler's Germany.
In 1965, Militon Kantaria carried the victory banner alongside Mikhail Yegorov and Konstantin Samsonov at the military parade on Red Square, marking 20 years since the Great Victory. 61 years later, Gheorghe Cantaria, Militon Cantaria's great-grandson, also marched across Red Square at the Victory Day parade, carrying on his family's legacy. A single flag, a single instant, yet its impact still echoes through history. For one family and for the world, Militon Cantaria, alongside millions of others, remains tied to the turning point that marks the end of fascism and the power of memory that refuses to fade. Anastasia Volodina, RT, Moscow.
Our special full coverage of Victory Day continues here on RT International. Do stay with us. Bye for now.
Hello! Happy Victory Day, my American friends.
Happy Victory Day. About the same time. Funny how time zones work with us in the past and in the future. But yes, what a great day in history, and the defeat over evil. Exactly. How are you tonight, this morning?
Great. I am feeling very hyped.
That is awesome. Awesome. We watched this last year together, and really good to see you stream it this year.
It's gonna be yes. So do you got in America? Do you guys celebrate? Like, do people go out on the streets and?
No, sadly, that's the thing is we don't really have big celebrations like this. They're either VE Day, VJ Day, which we call Victory in Europe, or Victory over Japan Days. We really don't. I mean, sometimes you're lucky if there's a little bit of news coverage these days anymore, especially with the older generation having died off and all.
And hello, hey Jay.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello, Jay.
Good. Good to see you.
Hey, Dedman.
Good to see you tonight.
Good. Yeah, good to be here. It's the park.
It's I don't know, like we had Anzac Day a couple of weeks ago, but this is a very special occasion for a lot of Russians and Slavic people. This is something that is almost like Christmas. Dadman,
Is there cake?
yeah, it's something that when you actually have something that your family, there's not a single person in Russia who has not had a grandmother, grandfather, or uncles, or whoever else who went through something like this. So how is it that in America, because you guys kind of stepped into the war after Pearl Harbor, but you don't really have this as a massive celebration? I mean, I know that Victory Day is supposed to be like the 8th, whatever. Nobody cares.
I don't know. It's hard to explain. I think I think as we get further and further from the time, the younger generations don't place the same priority on it. And like we said before,
what do you think?
The history, well, one of the things, history is so undertaught in the United States, especially military history. Events like this don't get the coverage they do. You're lucky you get a few days on the Civil War, and that happened in America, and you're really lucky if you get much of anything about World War II. And that's really I think really a lot of historical ignorance, because everybody assumes history's dates this, that, and the other. I think one of the other things too is, see, U.S. really got involved even before Pearl Harbor, because we were the Lend-Lease Act. We were arming the British. We were even sending food and other weapons to the Soviets, and so we were involved in it even before that. But one of the things that I think that makes a big difference, especially, is where the war really happened. U.S. Pearl Harbor was in Hawaii. Was not a state at the time, but it was an attack on an American naval base. The Philippines happened later that day. That was a military base in America by Americans, but it did not really happen on American soil. Outside of the Pearl Harbor, which was a territory, there was one bombing from a plane or balloons that happened up in the woods of Oregon. Outside of that, America never experienced war per se on it, in the homeland. I mean, we've had terrorist attacks. I mean, very notable terrorist attacks, but not really like a war, a projected war, where the people suffer and people. I mean, when you talk about like Asia, you talk about all there in Europe, especially in Russia, people died, fought, lots of stuff happened, and the memories really run deep, I believe, unless you had people that you lost in the war here. I think that's sort of why the difference has happened with what's, it's not really celebrated or remembered over here much.
No, I understand that. But you could say the same thing about Oz, right, Jay? You can say well, it never happened on. But a lot of the Australian soldiers, and again, that's why we celebrate Anzac Day. But there's a lot of people from all over the world who came together to defeat fascism and Nazism.
Absolutely.
And going back to Australia, I mean, there's a lot of soldiers that lost their lives.
Especially at World War One, when we got sent off to Gallipoli.
Yes,
we lost majority of our people over there.
Yes,
so, awful.
And if West was here, he loves to talk about Gallipoli, but there's something so intrinsic and like I don't know why me as a Russian, I always have this like I don't know, something about this day is very special to me. It's very special to a lot of people who I know who are Russian. And just even being in Moscow right now, I wish I was in Moscow, having people walking down the street just holding placards of their granddaddies or grandmothers or whoever you fought in the war and just remembering them. We can never repeat this. Something about what happened cannot be repeated, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's important to keep the history alive and to remember that. That's why I think these type of events are really, really important. What we do over here everybody focuses on Veterans Day for the people that are serving or have served.
Tell me a little
Memorial
bit
Day
more.
where they died.
So how is Veterans Day the different?
Well, that way it's more of a celebration for people that have served that are still alive. There'll be parades and they'll have soldiers come out. Sometimes there'll be some tanks and all, and they're more local events. Sometimes big cities will have them. Memorial Day is a more somber occasion where we remember those that gave their lives in actual battles and who died in the war. So, whereas it's like the holidays go more general versus like a VE Day, VJ Day. Because I think back at the time, if you remember after World War II, there were big ticker tape parades and stuff like that. And to me, I believe it's just a symptom of the failure of American education to really emphasize the importance of history and to celebrate it. Because, like I said, and make it pageantry. There was talk last year about the big Army 250 parade, and people lost their crap about it. There were a lot of people that didn't like it, thought it was like showing off and this, that, and the other, instead of taking pride in the country and for what the Army has done over its course of history. And I think there's a lot of divide also, which has kept it from being remembered like it should. And I did want to say one thing also with the Anzac with Australians. Australians, man, I tell you what, they did a lot of work up in Papua New Guinea, down there in the Pacific.
Yep.
And a lot of Americans don't understand what the Australians or New Zealanders did because they don't study the history. We don't study the Pacific and things like that. There was like, I think at least one Australian division that got surrendered when Singapore fell, that just got wasted. And, it just, like you said, it was a time where the world came together. You put your differences aside. There were differences still, though.
I will always say this. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
go
the
ahead.
whole world was on fire. Whether it was Asia, Pacific, whether it was Europe or Africa, that everybody was fighting. Everybody was involved in some way.
And what people? Sorry, go ahead.
And Jay, when I'm gonna go back to Canberra, but when I was they did have like little parades and things, but nobody really does anything in Australia, really, when it comes to like remembering. There'll be little things here and there, but it's not like a big thing. Like, yes, we even Anzac Day, nobody really does anything.
Well, Anzac Day is pretty big. Every town I know at least has a march and a remembrance and everything. Not so much on Remembrance Day, which is in November. That one's a little bit smaller, but Anzac Day is definitely the biggest one that we celebrate. Yeah.
So Dad-Man, what was the last kind of thing you attended or you saw where it's like, okay, we're gonna go and remember our ancestors and people who fought in the war, when it's not just Veterans Day or when people are being somber, but actually going out there, cheering, having fun, the making it into not just like a somber experience, but actually remembering the people, but also at the same time having it as a holiday where everybody goes out there and just has fun.
I don't think I've ever had anything like that. I'll be honest. I mean, we had some Veterans Day parades and Memorial Day things. We actually had with our girls, we're part of American Heritage Girls. They were a troop where they laid wreaths at the National Cemetery, military cemetery. But in terms of just parades for celebration, not anything in specific of wars, whether it's Civil War. I guess probably the main thing that I've done has been to some Civil War reenactments or some demonstrations where we saw a horse cavalry charge. We've seen some firing of cannon, but not really parades like that. That's just not been done in the States, at least where I've been, to be able to see it. Because, if there were things like that, I would be there. Me with my love with history.
Yeah, so the Civil War, obviously, don't get me started on the food stuff. Oh, God. No, but there's hello. I didn't even say hi to anybody. I'm so very sorry. I'm so bad at this. Oh, I'm gonna start from the top. The resident squid says I'm going to be sleeping, so I'll miss it live, but have a good show. Thank you so much, resident squid.
He needs a cat, though. He needs a cat.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. Wade, hello, Wade. I'm so bad at those guys. Sashi! Sashi! Who's in the Pacific?
Yes, he knows his history.
Always, yes. He knows everything about it. Greetings, greetings. And then somebody else who is not in the Pacific, but like specific feet, I guess. Vagabond. I'm sorry. I had to mention the feet. And of course, I'm always going to say, Jeff, gotta give it back to the motherland. Thank you for being here. I know you have to step away, but you belong to us. You are one of us.
She wants Russia back, Jeff.
Yes, and tape you on again. How was your Lupin show that you were watching? You left me for dead when we were watching the re-entry of Artemis 2. You went and watched Lupin.
God.
Anyway, thank you so much for being here. Yes, I did start early. I had trigger finger, unfortunately. But yes, and
I know. I woke up. I'm like sitting there, like, what the heck? You're live. I'm like,
yeah, I just said you're live. I don't care. Cool. Tom, the greatest ever guitar player. Thank you.
Oh man, you're gonna blow up his ego now with that one.
Well, the Vagabond's gonna go on. I think everybody's on the pub soon. So, are we gonna upstage the pub?
Yay! Let's do it. We make history fun. We got you. We got Jay. We got a party. So there you go.
Let's go.
And a parade coming.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. Happy Victory Day. Exactly. Thank you, Vagabond. Every single time I go on my Instagram, it's like Vagabond like this, and it's always some weird shit that he likes. I can't. I'm like, if he liked it, I need to like it.
Look, Vagabond's cool. He likes biscuits and gravy. He's
Oh
cool.
God, no. Bye-bye. Nope.
Ew. Scones and gravy.
Yeah. No. God, no.
No, thank you. I'll have some jam and some cream with my scones, but not some gravy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry, Dad, man. Sorry, I can't hear it. What are you screaming in the background about biscuits and no? You can go in the pub then. Sorry.
Hey, I do it to you. You do it to me. It's awesome. It all works out.
Yes, and I don't know. Anyway, I said I misspoke. I put a pound sign for some reason. It was supposed to be a love heart, but I don't know what happened. But Jeff called it out. He said pounds are greater than
What about his guy?
I don't know what I was doing. I was just not doing anything, I guess. And also we got Climate 7 Chow. Chows are actually really nice dogs.
Mm.
And of course, we have Dieter. Hello.
Hey, Dina.
Hello.
Yeah, Dieter's cool.
You know, one thing that you mentioned too about World War II, because you mentioned Pearl Harbor specifically, but especially America, I don't know how it is around the world. People forget that it started before 1941, and even before when the German invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. The war was going on in Asia in the mid 30s with Japan invading China. So, like you said, the world was on fire, and even though Poland wasn't invaded until September of 1939, there were annexations. I mean, the German government, I mean, they were on the march. They were taking over territory here and there. You started seeing the underlyings of the fascism that took over for so long. So, you know,
a lot of people don't understand the fascism and Nazism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's
because
just,
the Italians, Mussolini,
right.
came up with fascism.
Yeah.
And
but
then,
the whole, yeah.
And then you know who decided to model his whole thing on what Mussolini was doing, and called it, well, because it was a party,
Right.
Nazi party. But in Russia, we refer to it as fascisti. They are fascisti. They're fascisti. Russians don't refer to Nazi Germany as Nazis. We don't do that. We say fascisti or fasci.
Do you refer to the Italians the same way, same term?
No.
Okay.
It's all the same.
Okay.
They're fascisti. They're the fasci. They're where this whole nobody says like okay, they're nazisti. Nobody says that though.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody always refers to them as fascists, even to the Germans, which is very strange because fascism is Italian in concept, but in the Russian culture, we all somehow label them as fascists, which is interesting because again, the term today has been so misused, people not understanding what it actually means, especially with the idiotic idiots, the libtards, who call everybody that. But Jay, in Oz, is it more like Nazis or fascists? Is there a difference?
I actually don't know. I think it's sort of interchangeable. It's a good question, actually. I don't know, to be honest. Both?
Yeah.
Never given it any thought, actually.
Wait,
Probably Nazi.
Yeah, Nazi. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
But same thing in Britain. They're like, oh, the neo-Nazi, whatever. But in Russia, it's never Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a word that people say. It's interesting.
Okay.
Well, with I went out and looked with the dictionary.com as a source. They talk about Nazism being one type of fascism, that both fascism and Nazism reject democracy and liberalism as ideology.
Talking about fascism. Here we go. Hello, Blackie.
Yeah. but they do embrace the concept of a nationalist state. So that's one of the biggest differences.
Hey, can I just say one thing? Just for Black. How did you like Project Hail Mary, Deadman?
I liked it. I thought it was a good movie. I would like to watch it again with you or somebody that knows about stuff that's about the science stuff, because I got kind of lost with the science stuff a bit, but I thought it was really good. My wife loved it. She really loved the whole music.
Well, we all know that Blackie loves it too. That's his
favorite. It was his favorite film.
Yeah. Yeah,
terrible film.
Yeah.
No, I've seen terrible films. That was not a terrible film. That was actually a good one. No, I'm around my house. I pick the sucky films and stuff. My wife picks good ones. So, yeah, but no, I just no. Try anything Marvel, anything. Just no. It's There have been very bad movies.
Mm.
Yeah. So we're
Oh,
waiting.
by the way, I do say Canberra. I know that that's the real way, because see, a lot of Americans call it Canberra or Canberra.
Who says that?
Americans do. A lot of Americans, even historians, calls it Canberra. But I've been corrected.
What?
Canberra. You've not heard people call it Canberra?
No, I've never heard that.
Well, a lot of Americans do. That's why my Australian buddy that I was with before,
oh my god,
he lectured me from Australia. He's like, it's Canberra, Canberra, and I've heard of the U.S.
What?
You sound like you're even saying it wrong then.
Well, you got Berra, Canberra, right? Yeah. Wow, I didn't know you didn't know that. Wow.
Say Euclid. That's fine.
Oh, well, this is not the stream to get started on Euclid. That's another crusade that you got to be with me next year on New Year's Eve, so that I can go on the Euclid rampage. It was so funny that Artemis returned sort of over Euclid. That was crazy.
You know what? I'm kind of like really tempted to actually. I want to go back to Australia, but just for you, I will actually go and visit Euclid.
There you go. Give me pictures of Euclid. Yeah, it's not a very big place.
Oh my god.
Ugh.
Ryan Gosling probably pronounces Canberra wrong too.
A lot of Americans would. A lot of Americans. One podcast.
He's not American. He's Canadian.
Oh, he's not. Well, no, he's just a Yankee Canadian, a Yankee American. But you know, it's a lot of Americans would call it that. It was a U.S. Navy officer retired that called it Canberra, and that's also so. Some Americans know it, others don't. So, but you've never heard of Canberra, okay?
Hello, DJ Ronnie.
Ronnie.
Good to
But
see
yeah.
you.
But yeah, that's what they said. The difference between Nazism and fascism is that, and really one of the things is the national state.
Say it.
Canberra.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Canberra.
There you go.
Exactly. I listen. I don't call it Canberra anymore. I had an Australian.
Can and it's not a bear.
Look, I know that. I had an Australian friend I streamed with that really drilled that into my head. As animated as you are, that's what he was. Canberra. Canberra? Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, my gosh.
God. Jay, can we ever get away from Project Hail Mary? I honestly can't.
I don't think so.
Well, my wife loved the movie, so a lot of people love that movie. So
I loved it too. We all loved it apart from Blackie. He obviously hates it because he has some kind of weird obsession with Rachel McAdams, just because she was with the Ryan Gosling.
That's why he hated it. She wasn't in it.
Yeah. Whatever. Sorry, Blackie.
oh my gosh.
Yes. Jeez Louise. Alrighty.
Yeah.
So we are getting to the point where in about 10 minutes minus T minus 10 we are going to have the parade. No, I actually used to work with this guy, Afshin Ratanzi. He's an Iranian. So
that's cool.
Oh, the guy on the desk. Okay, the guy at the desk.
Yeah, the presenter. Yep. No, that looks like a walrus.
Oh my god! It's the mustache.
Oh my god! Yes, we know. We know all about it. Yes, you watched it like 20,000 times.
Well, The Devil Wears Prada 2 was pretty good. We actually enjoyed that last week. And we just got through Mortal Kombat tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, the audiobook was good for Project Hail Mary. I agree. And oh crap, I still gotta buy an IMAX ticket before it goes out of fashion. Don't start me on fashion. We
Yeah,
did a whole
girlfriend.
stream
Oh yeah,
about fashion.
yeah, yeah. I love what you come up with. Me being responsible for Sarah Paulson's $1 bill across her eyes. That was cool.
Yeah, you kind of just farted and
Yep.
Yep.
Blew $1 right up there. So
Well, again,
man, 27 million Soviet citizens killed. That just you look at. That's why people don't forget and really remember. You know, that kind of death toll. Just you got to remember that and not forget.
yeah, there's no way you can forget that. That there's no one place in back then in the Soviet Union, but not one family did not lose someone.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, just man, woman, child, everybody was fighting. Everyone. And that's why it's such a very important, because you came into our territory. You came into our space. You came into our houses. You burnt our villages. You raped our women. You took our children. How can you sit there and be like, oh, yeah, well, the Soviet Union is evil? No. People were just fighting and surviving. We all fought together against this horrible thing. But this walrus man, he looks like he's wearing a disguise.
Oh God, you said Walrus Man. That was the guy in Star Wars, in the cantina.
Oh my god, I have many fashionable leather jackets. Okay. I'm sure you do.
Prove it tonight on the FAP.
Yeah.
Show us.
Yeah.
You got one with tassels?
Huh. I'm gonna have our
This
own.
guy looks like a game show host, though.
Who?
Alright, guys. I might be back later.
The newsreader.
Afshin Ratanzi. No, he's a see you later, Jay. Come back whenever you can. No, he's fine. He's all right.
Yeah, well, my wife worked in news for so many years, and it's like newsreaders are very interesting people, to say the least.
Like Italian, I stay with Russia. Ever.
I'll hold off on the accents tonight, so.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah. No, I do like the walrus. That's fine. He's okay.
Yeah, I guess he's just probably talking. I wonder if he's in Moscow though. So, or is it?
No, Afshin is in London.
Yeah, but I noticed the videos up at the top when he went to Walrus Man. It said Moscow, Moscow, Russia, Moscow, not Moscow.
Horrible government. Yes.
I gotta be careful.
Do you want to do an Italian accent?
Mamma mia, it's a pizza pie. It's a Moscow, Russia. Walrus Man is a inna. Well, there you go. At least I'm not rapping tonight. But yeah, okay. Walrus Man, I guess, lives in America. Looks like an American or Brit living in Russia, though. He got another slave bear behind him.
I think Blocky misspelled Lenin for Lenin.
Let it be. Sorry. Oh no, that Lenin. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I used to work with this guy, Afshin. Yeah.
Oh, cool. That's cool. Nice.
He's all right. He's fine.
That's good to see.
He's in London. He's from Iran. Not the walrus.
Not the walrus, no. He truly looks
Can you
like an
imagine?
American. I don't think he's Brit. He's got to be an American.
Shall we listen to what he actually has to say?
Sure, let's go.
We'll be back on Monday for more continuing coverage of US wars on West Asia with an official in the Reagan administration who has nothing but condemnation for Trump's wars of aggression. Until then, keep in touch via all our social media. If it's not censored to your country, and to our channel, Going Underground TV on rumble.com to watch new and old episodes of Going Underground. See you Monday.
Bye-bye.
Wow, he got the quick countdown. He read that one really quickly.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's hopefully this year they don't talk over the good parts of the parade.
Since World War II, the United States has fostered extremist anti-Russian prejudices and hatreds among the Ukrainian diaspora in at least Canada, the United States, and countries in Eastern Europe, probably everywhere in the world. It doesn't matter what these groups say or do. It will support them if the groups are causing hatred and chaos within the target country.
Вся идеология Майдана, она как раз была чисто сектантской идеологией.
Среди военнослужащих вооруженных формирований Украины большое количество лиц, которые придерживаются языческих ритуалов.
Мы не христианці, ми язичники.
So the CIA uses anyone and anything. If there's a religion.
Hello! I want to say a big hello to my mom, who is joining us all the way from Moscow. Hello, Mama.
Good morning. Good morning. Happy Victory Day.
Happy Victory Day. How are you doing today?
I'm very good. Thank you. Sadly, I can only stay for a few minutes because I have to go out and tend to some medical business. But thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
It's a very good cause you're doing the show today on. Thank you.
And what's happening? Tell us what's happening in Moscow right now.
It's a bright day. There's going to be a parade this morning or this afternoon. Lots of people are wearing those little yellow and black ribbons as a symbol of remembrance, those who perished in the war, in the last war. There will be again the march, which is called Вечный полк, when relatives, children, grandchildren, friends of veterans march along the various streets, various towns and cities, remembering their relatives who took part and died in the war, or who showed heroic acts of courage in the war. So it's really a national movement. It's not organized by the authorities. It's just something that people want to do. So I guess the marches already took place in the far east of Russia, and it will be one today in Moscow as well, in St. Petersburg.
It's going to be it's always a big event. And if you want to read what Sam says. Здравствуйте, Anna and company. Also, good night. I'm going to sleep now. Have a good rest. Have a good rest. But it is something that, like you say, it's part of our culture. It's not like the authorities are making us do any of this, or think that we need to go, and it's part of our culture. Like I was saying to Dadman.
It is. It's part of our history.
It's something that is intrinsically ingrained in us, and Americans don't really have that.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Sorry.
No,
go ahead.
you go ahead. You go ahead, Marina. By the way, hello, greetings.
Hello. I just wanted to say
Hello,
that.
Grant. Hello, Grant, all the way from Australia. Hello, Grant.
Hello, Grant. Yeah, I just wanted to say that there are very few events that unite people. Nowadays, most developments divide people because loads have different views, even on history. But this one event, the Victory Day, it's really the day of unanimity because it's about historical sacrifices, historical victories, and something that made to pull people together. And almost every family in Russia lost somebody because the total number of people who perished was different. Statistics suggest different numbers, but it's anywhere between 22 and 30 million. It's a population of any other given country. It's huge. So I guess it's in the blood, it's in the veins, it's in the genes. So this is really a Remembrance Day, the celebration of courage, heroism, and nations' unanimity. And then what we always say in this country is that those who don't know or don't remember history can't build a good future for themselves. So that's another reason why people don't want to forget. So yeah, it's a big day for us.
And I know that because last year this time Anna actually introduced me to this whole the victory parade last year this time, and it was really interesting because we don't have parades like this in our country. We barely even remember VE Day or VJ Day in the Pacific. And to see this is really, really very interesting. And as you mentioned, the war happened on your territory, whereas the U.S. had a couple of attacks on territories. I think it does create a lot of something different of feeling because everybody had to fight. Everybody was involved in the war when it's in your backyard. And, I think somehow, like what we've done in our country, we've lost sight of the importance of history and these events, especially with the hideous worldview that the world came together to defeat, in Germany.
Yeah. But yesterday there was a program, and the lady was saying nowadays there are lots of attempts by the US, by the European leaders to portray the defeats of Nazism as the accomplishment of European countries and United States of America. Go and see what language the notes on Reichstag are. They're in Russian. So there were Russian soldiers who reached the core of Nazism establishment first. So, and I guess there is a lot of attempts to distort facts, and because people generally, it's what the third, fourth generation we're on. If you don't have this intention to carry over from one generation to another the knowledge, then it gets forgotten. But in Russia, as I say, because almost every family was impacted one way or another, this is very cherished memory. So with that, I do apologize. I have to dash out and do something, but I wish you a good show and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mama.
An honor to speak to you again, Marina. Very nice to talk.
Ребята мои, с Днем Победы, с Днем Победы, мама.
С Днем Победы, доченька. Пока.
Bye-bye. Yeah. Oh.
Very lovely lady you have there, your mom. Very knowledgeable.
Yes. My mom's right. It is something that's very special. Very, very special for Russian people. And Sashi, over here, we don't have a victory day. The Japanese didn't surrender in one day and started in September.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, even though they surrendered in Tokyo Bay on the Missouri, they were, even into the 1970s, they were still finding Japanese holdouts on certain islands that were still fighting the war. It was a very staggered surrender, you know.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. I feel like maybe it's a little bit alien to people to feel so patriotic, because this is called the Great Patriotic War.
Right. Right. It was.
For a lot of people today, especially not even, well, even with our generation, I guess, we're all, streamers online, whatever, doing whatever, but who actually would go and fight? Who actually would take up arms and go and stand there and be like, I'm fighting for my country?
Mm-hmm. No, I think patriotism is a lost art, and it's not what it used to be. I think, not saying that's not there. I think there's a lot of people that are very proud of their country and what the countries have done. Patriotism is a great thing, and people are proud of their various countries and what they've done. And sometimes
Sashi
not
says,
so proud.
The Asian attitude is fine. They left. Let's get on with life. Get over it.
Get over it. Yeah. Oh my God, like fashion for sure. But no, I like some of your points that your mom made. One of the things is, though, too, one of the problems is you had a lot of politics between the British and the U.S. Because Patton would have been in Berlin. It would have been interesting to see if Patton had been left unchained and who would have gotten there first, him or the Russians. But the
Russians were there first.
But who would have, if they would have supplied him and his tanks with enough fuel? They were pulling him back because they were fighting
the tanks, my friend.
But the problem was, what I'm trying to say is, there was a lot of battle of
Please
PR.
stop making it like America did everything. No,
I'm not making that point. I'm not making that point. What I'm trying to say, the Brits were big with Montgomery. There was a rivalry between Montgomery and Patton that affected.
The Russians were the ones who did it first.
I know they did.
Accept that, please. Everybody.
I do accept
that. The Russians did it. The Russians.
I know they did it. I know that did. I was just coming up with an interesting point of history is the rivalry between Patton and Montgomery. I mean, it could have extended the war too, with them playing games. Eisenhower was balancing egos, and it's one of those questions of history of what would have happened. A
lot of people don't even know about the fact that just Stalin, for all of his psycho whatever he was, but he was pretty much in cahoots with the mustache man, and then he was in cahoots with that person. He was really playing chess, pretty much. And then when it didn't, he understood. But one thing I have to give him credit for, he really did make everybody, and he created a very good infrastructure. He created the Moscow metro was created by him, and that is one of the best. It's nothing like the London Tube or the New York Piers Metro or New York subway. That is one of the so efficient.
Oh yeah, I've heard that from a sister-in-law that talked about how great the subway is in Moscow. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Sashi says the armed forces in Malaysia do, however, celebrate Anzac Day. There we go. In solidarity with their forces. They stuck around when the British were retreating. Exactly. And Jay was here before we did talk about Anzac Day.
Yeah, there's a lot of criticism of Churchill with the Pacific strategy over many things that they did, and not building up Singapore. As there's so much with history. That's why history is so interesting to study.
It is, and you need to study it. You need to debate it. You need to have conversations about it. You can't just ignore it. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, a lot of the younger generation don't have any time for it because they don't teach it in school. They don't encourage you. When I was going to school, it was always encouraged.
And one of the things that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
History was my favorite thing to ever learn. I wanted to know what it would, but it's not because it's like, oh, you know, some kind of like macabre fascination or anything, but it matters. Again, it's like ingrained in my soul as a Russian human being. Like, I want to know what happened with Anzac Day, what the Australian history is with this, what the Canadian history is, what the Pacific Wars, what what America went through. I want to know everything, what China did, what Japan did. But today, you ask a person that they can't even point out on the map where China or Japan is. Yeah, oh yeah, it's the United States. Oh yeah, that's Russia. But everything else is like the kids today don't care.
Well, one of the things, at least in our country, everybody associates history with dates and places, not, you know, and they trivialize it when they reduce it to just that. You know, and memorizing dates and places. You know, it's more than that. History's alive. It's a lot of stuff. One of my favorite battles is about Battle of Midway, and I've read a 1,000-page book on it.
Oh yes.
You know, and it's like they're finding new facts, information that was prepared at the time of the war that is changing what we know and what we believe. You know, this day and age, and those, like you said, the debates.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually saying that World War II in Malaysia is often referred to as the Forgotten Theater. And Andy is saying it must be mentioned that it was an Allied win. The U.S. aided the Soviets with a huge number of vehicles, a Lend-Lease Act that helps mobilize. Yes, that is very true.
You know, one of the stories that I've heard from one of the history podcasts I watch, they actually talked about one of the veterans, U.S. veterans that ended up on a ship, merchant marine ship, delivered goods to a Russian port, and the Russian would not eat this can of stuff. Well, the American cut it open and ate it, and then offered the Russian some of it, and the Russian just loved it. What it was spam. You know, food, yes, food, just foodstuffs and canned food like that. So,
and Andy says we are not who we were back then. To have a four-front war with massive logistics, the African campaign, the Italian invasion, the war in the Pacific, as well as D-Day. Yeah. Blackie says the important thing is we see. Damn it.
Matt Damon.
The important thing is we say Matt Damon, but sadly we lost Tom Hanks. Oh my god. Well, Ryan Gosling lived, so good.
Well, Sasha's exactly right about there. The Japanese infantry moved on bikes. Yeah. And Sasha's right about the Malaysian theater. People don't get what happened, and there was so much brutality in Malaysia, and the British were ill prepared. I mean, Churchill neglected defense lines and all this other things that could have been done. They sent a division of Australians in there just to surrender. I mean, it's, you know, but
we never should have let him go to Mars afterwards. We will let you go to an island and never see you again, and then you can say send help.
Right. So what is this that's going on right now? I mean, is this a live shot or is this
no, so they yes, the Slovakian prime minister laid the actually let's listen to what he's saying. This is not I think this is a repeat.
over strong words. And I care about normal, friendly, and standard relations between the Russian Federation and the Slovak Republic. There are also several practical issues. I hope that tomorrow there will be an opportunity to discuss these topics with President Putin.
Do you think you will have problems with the Europeans because you came here?
In the European Union, there are always some black sheep, the so-called black sheep of the family. I belong to this flock, the black sheep of the family. I say this everywhere, so I have no problem saying it here either. I am opposed to a single mandatory viewpoint. I think that such an approach is very wrong. I too often express views that do not align with the single viewpoint that we must express.
Russia confirms that a 3-day ceasefire with Ukraine has taken effect to mark the Victory Day celebrations. The truce will include a full cessation of hostilities as well as a large-scale prisoner swap. The truce comes after a proposal from the U.S. president, which followed his call with Vladimir Putin. Both leaders underlined how their countries were allies during World War II against the Nazis. Here's the full statement from Vladimir Putin's foreign policy aide.
By order of the President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, I confirm the acceptability for the Russian side of the initiatives proposed by the President of the United States, Donald Trump, regarding a ceasefire for the exchange of prisoners of war between Russia and Ukraine. An agreement on this matter has been reached during our telephone contacts with the administration of the President of the United States. Representatives of the United States, in turn, have been in contact with Kiev. The main thing is that it has been agreed to carry out, during the ceasefire period from May 9th to May 11th, a prisoner exchange of 1,000 people from each side. We welcome this initiative, which builds upon the recent telephone conversation between the presidents of Russia and the United States, in which the leaders especially emphasized that our countries were allies during the years of World War II, and also discussed the possibility of a ceasefire during the Victory Day celebrations. Importantly, President Trump's initiative is timed precisely to mark the 81st anniversary of the victory over Nazism, our sacred holiday.
The Russian president discussed the Victory Day truce during a conversation with Donald.
Blah, blah. Okay. Sashi says, I come from the island of Penang. The British left in the middle of the night, leaving us to be bombarded by the Japanese Air Force. They didn't know. They left. Old-timers there. Don't like either side. And then it says, both my parents lived during the Japanese occupation. So, again, you see, everybody's experienced something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know, like a single person. You could take the most remote. You can take Blocky in his pool, and he would still in Eucla or wherever he is. He would still experience something that has to do with this.
Yeah, and it runs deep when the war really happens on your territory. It really runs deep because the brutality of the war violations. My mom was a beautician, and many years ago, she had a lady, a client that lived in China, grew up in China, and grew up during the war, and she bore great hostility to anything from Japan all her life. I mean, she's in the 60s or 70s when my mom was doing her hair, and just there. I mean, you could the wounds of the war ran deep with her.
Yeah. Oh, it's your favorite right there.
Oh, the comedian?
Oh, the clown.
The clown, yeah.
Oh my God. Is it really though? Is it? I don't know. I don't think it is. But yeah, are they going to start the parade or what is happening?
They said earlier within an hour or so, maybe in 10 minutes.
Okay, so yeah, let's see what he has to say.
It states, we recalled how we fought together against Nazism and prevailed together. Leaders of countries friendly to Russia have personally arrived for the Victory Day celebrations and will take part in the ceremonial events on Saturday.
Now, after Russia announced its ceasefire beginning on the 8th of May, well, Ukraine committed a terrorist act, and Vladimir Putin called the recent actions by Kiev, well, just as they were, undeniably terrorist. The attack on the Rostov Regional Air Traffic Control Center could have had an impact on the safety of hundreds of civil aircrafts. Fortunately, a tragedy was avoided early in the morning as a result of the highly professional work of the air traffic controllers. Take a listen.
The Kiev regime has committed yet another act that is unquestionably terrorist in nature. It struck the Rostov Regional Air Traffic Control Center. This could certainly have affected the safety of civilian aircraft. Fortunately, no tragic events occurred as a result, thanks to the highly professional work of our air traffic controllers.
Now, Deputy Prime Minister
So,
Savelyev reported that
you
3
asked me-
strikes were carried out between 4:15 and 5:45.
So you asked me a question before. Sorry.
Mhm.
I don't know why that stopped. But you asked me a question before where you said like how do people live with it? You get used to it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You just get used to things like that happening. It doesn't bother you at the end of the day anymore.
Mm.
Shouldn't have.
Right. It
Really,
shouldn't happen, but
it
yeah.
should not, but you just get used to it.
Hmm.
And it's a good thing that the Russian people are very strong spirited. You don't sit there and just despair. You just get on with life. But again, that's on our territory. And this keeps
Yeah, life
happening.
doesn't stop. You have to keep going. Yeah.
You have to keep going. Life doesn't stop. But again, if you go to, I don't want to say anything bad about America or anything, but you had some balloons floating around. Everybody was going crazy. Oh my God, the aliens are invading. And then everybody's like going crazy. Like, but you don't have people like literally droning you on your territory. You have other problems, and I hope with the wildfires and everything like that, which is more,
Right. No, I'll tell you because of the history of it. Even in World War II, like I said, outside of Pearl Harbor, the only attack on the mainland was up in the Pacific Northwest, where a Japanese balloon dropped some bombs and killed a few people. There were us, of course, we had on the East Coast. My grandparents remembered they had German U-boats that would drop spies off and stuff like that. I mean, it's completely different than like with Sashi's experience and his family's experience in Malaysia, yours in Russia. Completely different things. The worst that we probably have had, you had 9/11, obviously, just isolated terrorist attacks, but probably in the 70s when there was a lot of civil rights and a lot of unrest in the U.S. was probably the roughest time when it was like bank robberies, terrorist type stuff, terrorist groups running loose. I mean,
yeah,
there was a time in the 70s because it had power outages. Just a lot of stuff happened, but it's still not like this. It's not like having a war every day going on your homeland.
Yeah, no, Sashi says my cousin got run out of Ukraine around the early 2000s. They had groups there that are on the side of the funny mustache man. Huh? We all know that. Yep. She wasn't the correct color. She was there on an education exchange program.
Right.
And this guy right there. Oh my God. Oh.
Well, can I follow up on something he said right there about the funny mustache man? As you said, you've been sharing that stuff with me, since you went there and stuff, and some of the symbols. And I think one of the articles said that about the symbols were very similar to the 1930s Germans and stuff. And
they're not similar. They
are
use the same.
Here's the point of what I'm saying, though, is that's not reported in this country. Very few people know that about the other side in this country. And to even hear Sashi say that based on a family account is very interesting to see, because That's not reported here in the U.S., that type of stuff. Don't judge us by the panic-driven media, because that panic-driven media only looks for headlines and tells you half truths and what they want you to understand. Because like I said, what you share with me, what Sashi's point is, few people in this country really know about that and that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't judge anybody by panic-driven media. My wife used to work in that panic-driven media. The head tagline was, "If it bleeds, it leads."
Yep.
I wonder if they're going to have any new countries there this year, because I know you shared also how many of the other countries used to be here that weren't out here last year. I wonder if there's any new countries this year.
Over 1 million Africans who marched into the fire of the Second World War weren't just colonial forces. They were the strategic spine of the Allied effort. Yet today, their names are missing from the monuments in London as well as Paris. History that was not lost, but deliberately hidden from the public eye.
My grandfather, Chief Ihunwo III, Sunday Bukoluchukwu, royalty, he took part in the Second World War. He fought in the capacity of a medic in orthopedic.
Oh, what happened?
Oops.
What happened?
I don't.
What did you do?
I breathed.
So basically, at the time, these were colonies. These are colonies of European powers, France, United Kingdom. And so that's what was actually, to be honest with you, this was actually like really far from the shores of Nigeria. And so those who took part in this war, they actually did not fully comprehend the extent of what they were actually getting involved in, to be honest with you. And so it was when they got there, they actually realized that this is actually such a huge undertaking. This was actually like a really, really big war. For Nigerians as a whole, as Nigerians as a people, we had a civil war, the Biafran War in Nigeria. That one is one that most Nigerians actually remember. But for the Second World War, most Nigerians don't actually really remember or preserve the memories from that era.
Consider the life of Chief Sunday Bekele-Chukwu in the River State of Nigeria. He was a man of medicine, a traditional orthopedic healer, royalty among his people. But in 1941, the British Empire saw not a healer, but a tool. For years, his hands mended the broken bodies of a war he did not start. When the smoke cleared, the West kept the glory. They sent the healer back to a silence that lasted 80 years. This wasn't one tragedy. It was a colonial doctrine. From Senegal to Kenya, the pattern was clinical.
My father didn't choose to fight for France. He was taken there against his will as a result of colonization. He and his comrades were forcibly conscripted in 1940. I was just a small child at the time. It was September 1940. When the time came to receive payment, France, which was responsible for paying soldiers from Senegal, backtracked. It executed those who had saved them.
While white veterans were given land and pension, African heroes were discarded like spent shells.
Ogogo Gembo was born here in Osik Kamser, near Congo. And on 4th of September 1941, he was enlisted to Second World War. He took part in the siege of Tobruk. That was where the Germans were. And they fought the Germans until they managed to push them into surrender. My father was not happy that he was not recognized. Like many African veterans got recognition elsewhere, he was not very happy that he did not get compensation.
This betrayal changed Africa forever. Men who had been trained to fight for global freedom realized they would have to fight for their own. In 1948, the British killed protesting veterans in Ghana, a move that sparked the riots leading to the continent's first successful independence movement.
I was standing before all of them were killed. Sergeant Udate Lamte, Patrick Atipo, and then Sergeant Dite. I was standing just few yards, about 6 feet from behind Sergeant when they were all killed. I was there at the crossroads. 1948.
Decades later, the struggle is about the history that is often missing from the textbooks. Younger generations just remember Nigeria, and they are growing up unaware of the sacrifice of their ancestors who helped win the Second World War.
My family, of course, we know about it. We're proud of it. But in Nigeria, this is not actually spoken about as much. It's not taught in the history books. Specifically, I would recommend, first of all, doing justice to the history and adding this to the history books in Nigeria, which is where I'm from, which I believe would go a long way to inspire that pride, that we actually took part in this war. We fought this war. We took a huge part in the defeat of Nazi Germany and the Axis powers in the Second World War. I think that will go a long way.
On this Victory Day, the truth is finding a home where it cannot be silenced. Thousands of kilometers away in Russia, the story of Sunday Bekwele Chukwu and the million forgotten heroes is being etched into prosperity. But RT also making its contribution and declaration, saying that your sacrifice was not in vain, your bravery was not invisible, your memory lives on forever.
We are right outside the Victory Museum here in Moscow, where upon our initiative by...
And I just want to... That was really good. She's a good presenter. Andy says it's how it feels in McCoy's. In most cases, each side has a perspective. As I understand, Kiev is the birthplace, yes, of the Rus. Yes, Kievska Rus. Some 700 or 800 years ago, when it threw off the Mongolian rule by Genghis Khan. Yes, correct. I had a good friend who was Armenian and was in the Soviet military. He could barely have a civil conversation when we met a Turkish woman because of the genocide. Yep, I can understand that. Very touchy subject. And Sashi says, Sybil Katigasu, a nurse in Malaysia, was awarded the George Medal by the British for her role in the resistance against the Japanese. Everybody played a part. Everybody did something. People, no matter your skin color, your religion, everybody was part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, see, like the U.S. Remember back then, even too, the U.S. was definitely a segregated military. Black units, white units. I mean, even like the Tuskegee Airmen was a segregated unit. I mean, they're one of the few that really have gotten a lot of credit over the years for their contributions that they really did. And it's funny, in spite of the racism at the time and everything else, those bomber pilots really appreciated the hell out of them because they were very effective. They were really good at flying escorts. And those bomber pilots really, I mean, at that point, when the bullets are flying, your skin color does not matter.
Yep. And I think, I mean, we were talking about Nigerians. Nigerians are very soulful people, very spiritual, extremely loyal when it comes to family.
I've got a coworker that's Nigerian. I met his mother the other day. Talking to her proved everything you've said. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, you don't mess with a Nigerian mama. That's for sure.
Nope, she's nice and soft-spoken, but you don't want to make her mad for sure.
Yeah, but this is interesting because, again, people seem to think, I've been asked so many times by actually people, of color or whatever, that, like, are there any Black people in Russia? And I'm like, do you understand what Russia is? It's the largest country in the world. Of course there are. We have the most diverse, if you want to DEI, Russia's the most DEI place on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Any kind of ethnicity, any kind of you will find.
Yeah, watch some of the videos of the traditional Russian music coming through, and and you look at all the different. Do they refer them to as republics or states?
No, they're not. No, because it's a federation, so they're just municipalities or whatever you want to
Okay.
call them.
There's so many of them that are just so diverse, from music to traditional dress and everything.
Yeah, there's so many different cultures, so many different people, and of course, we do have Africans. I mean, I went to university right next to the college, which is the College of all African Republics. Right there next to my journalism school. It was right next door. All African republics.
Right. Now, this where she's were you there last year?
Yep.
Because it looks familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that is Park Padilla, the Park of Victory. Yep.
Beautiful, beautiful
I
place.
go there every time I visit Russia, every time I'm in Moscow. It's my ritual. Again, nobody taught me that. Nobody asked me to do it. It's my own thing that I like doing, to go and commemorate and to think and understand what happened. It's a private time for me. It's not that far away. It's only 2 metro stops, but I usually just walk there. Like, it's a 35, 40-minute walk. And then I go there and I just spend time thinking and commemorating and remembering. Who taught me to do that? Nobody told me to. But this is, again, what my mom was saying. It's ingrained in your culture. Somehow you just do it. It's important.
No, it is. It's not, and it's nice to hear that, though. I wish that we did more
Yeah.
of that in our country. I really did. But I mean, it's like even when you go to a lot of these historical sites, even within our own Civil War, it just so not well attended, and but you can feel the history. You can just feel it when you're there on site.
Yeah, and Andy says, sadly, this is human nature. Look at the documentary film Independence Day.
Oh,
when
yes.
we worked together to defeat the alien invasion.
With the greatest presidential speech ever, right?
Oh, and Bill Pullman, yes, he's great. Do they play bluegrass music in Georgia, Russia? Oh, well, what does Blocky have to say? I watched a documentary. Can you read this?
I watched a documentary once that said the country Niger exiled all the people named Ian, and they formed their own, and that's how we have Nigerians now. I've got to tell that to my Nigerian friend. He'll probably laugh at that. Oh gosh! Of course, how many Ians are? Probably very few. Yeah. So.
Sashi says the Malaysian Armed Forces operate a weird mix of equipment. We have Polish tanks based on the T-72, the MiGs, the Suhois, British helicopters, and we just bought some Korean aircraft. We like diversity.
You're not supposed to laugh, Sashi, remember?
We also have F-18s.
Oh, man. You know, it's really neat too, looking at these old pictures and frames from back then. It really, really, really is.
Oh, let's see what he say. Is he saying that?
That, more than half of the world is not white European. We are people from Asia, we are people from Latin America, we are from the African continent, we are of the wrong color. We don't have blue eyes. We are not blonde, like Hitler defined, who is a human being, in terms of physical characteristics. So when the Soviet Union defeated the Nazis, they won the battle for the whole world.
Goodbye, Andy.
Andy, Anna, I left you a message in the private chat.
Alrighty.
Yeah, but bye, Andy.
Take care, Andy.
We can return now to RT's Rory Souchet, who is in the very heart of Moscow, where the military parade dedicated to Victory Day over Nazi Germany will start in less than 20 minutes. Rory, the parade participants are lined up, ready to go, and crowds are waiting in anticipation. What's the atmosphere there right now where you are?
Yeah, the atmosphere is just steadily getting higher and higher here. In fact, we can hear the marching bands in the distance who are getting ready to make their grand entrance onto Red Square. As you rightly said, Rachel, kicking off in roughly 15 minutes from now. We've heard the marching bands. We've heard all sorts of salutes back there and military kind of drills going on. So, yeah, a lot of action behind the scenes here, getting ready for the kickoff for the big parade. Of course, Vladimir Putin will be addressing the troops. Andrei Belousov, the Minister of Defense, will be there, of course, as well, and a number of other dignitaries. But I want to bring in our guest here, former U.S. Army officer Stanislav Krapivnik, now joining us here.
And yes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, lighten the load. Go with the basics. Government contracts. Yep.
So yes,
I'll be honest. I'll be honest.
Agree with how she says.
Yeah, that a dad man, a Boeing pilot, once said that Malaysian F-18 are faster, mainly because we threw out all the stuff that your politicians and bureaucrats put in it. I think absolutely. Government contracts and a lot of stuff probably isn't needed, and yeah. I will tell you though, Anna, I'll be honest with what he described with what's coming up. Your mom did a much better job. Yeah. Describe, and I'm serious. A compliment to her. She sounded passionate about it and excited. He just read a script, but I mean, she talked about a lot more stuff than just the bare basic stuff. And it was a credit to her. It's nice to talk to her tonight. And like I said, like you said, it would really be cool to be in Moscow itself now while this is going on. What are your memories? You attended these in person, right? What are your memories from those?
So usually you start your day with you go to the parade, and then with your friends you literally celebrate. But the way we celebrate in Russia with people my age is we walk. We walk. I think the last time on 9th of May, we walked like 32 kilometers.
Wow.
Yeah. And you just walk and you stop and then you have a little bit of fun here, have a little bit of fun, and then everybody else is walk. You just walk.
That is definitely not American for sure.
Yeah, because Moscow is a very big city.
Beautiful city, very clean, very beautiful.
It's
amazing.
You think of it's nothing like New York or San Francisco or any of your American cities.
Mm-hmm.
It is huge. It is massive, and you can walk for, again, kilometers, and you keep walking and just stop by a place, sit down for a little bit, have a little bit of food, have a drink, whatever, and then keep walking. You keep walking. And everybody is out celebrating. The little kids, the old grandfathers, everybody is out there celebrating, commemorating what happened. Because we will never forget what happened. That's why it says, translated from, we are proud, мы гордимся, we are proud of what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And we will never forget what happened. And everybody is welcome. Everybody is participated.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone fought this horrible thing that happened.
And you were showing me too in prior years, though, that other countries.
Big walk.
Yeah. But you were showing me last year too the video of where the U.S. used to show up, or the U.K. would show up. Other countries that are not.
Yeah, but now they don't. Yeah.
Nope.
If you want to walk, go to India. My dad once said that if you ask a local for directions, and they just say it's very neat. Next thing you know, you'll walk 30 kilometers. I don't know who. Dmitry, hello, Dmitry. Zelensky better not break the ceasefire and attack Moscow, or he will say bye to the center of Kiev. I agree with you, Dmitry, whoever you are.
Yep, they had the 3 day, the 3 day ceasefire, but last year was quiet.
From 2021, 2022 to today, it's a whole different military.
Yeah.
It's a much more experienced military. It's a much larger military, and the technology is cutting edge.
Yeah.
I wonder if Steven Seagal will be there this year.
Quite a welcome from
Maybe.
the U.S. Always put the U.S. in first place and Russia in second place.
Right.
But we've seen in Iran that the U.S. is not in first place. Yeah. The equipment that the U.S. uses is either outdated or does not perform to the standards that they sell it as.
Yeah.
While the equipment that's used in the SMO, it's constantly updated, it's constantly evolving, and it is the cutting edge technology.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, for example, the Pentagon said a few months ago, in the wake of the conflict in Ukraine, we can now say that the Patriot missiles, the much highly vaunted Patriot missiles, are actually no good.
Yeah.
But here's what's curious to me. They keep building them.
Yeah.
They keep making the same ones that have already been either put out of the skies by anti-electronic warfare devices, or these ballistics are just being shot out of the sky, but they double down and keep producing the same stuff. Whereas the Russians have, the Orezhnik, for example, the avant-garde, the nuclear triad. This is a whole nother level of high tech. You go back to the Minuteman missiles in America, the Minuteman missile, sounding like an 18-year-old on prom night. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you've got the Orezhnik.
I visited one of those silos.
The dagger, for example. You have an incredible level of high tech today in the Russian military.
I'm all for free markets, but there's certain areas that should not be free markets. The military-industrial complex, why Russia succeeds is because the military-industrial complex, it's government funded, it's government firms.
Yeah.
Their job is to create effective weapon systems, not revenue streams.
Right.
You make the revenue streams by selling it to other countries, but it has to be an effective weapon system. In the U.S., are private corporations whose number one job is to make money, not make effective weapon systems.
Yeah.
And you look at something like the F-35, the most expensive plane in the world. Lockheed Martin, in their contract, has it built in that there are certain sections, like the avionics, the propulsion, that military mechanics aren't allowed to touch. You have to bring in the Martin Lockheed technicians, $400 or $500 an hour.
Yeah.
That after the maintenance, the whole system is made to make money, not to make effective weapons.
That F-35, the most expensive aircraft, a fighter jet in the world, as you say. But I heard someone comment, and I thought it was quite apropos. Somebody said to me, the Russian military is designed for military purposes. The American military is designed for profit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
so
exactly right.
You have these lobbyists, and you have the military-industrial complex.
I do agree with that.
And it's the history of the U.S., even dating back to the Civil War.
guys. On any conflict,
Contractor profiteering was even huge back in the Civil War.
On Red Square right now, the music is beginning as we're gearing up now for the parade to kick off in what should be almost exactly 10 minutes from now. Stas, what are we seeing here?
We're seeing the military band starting the parade. The music's it's the same music that's played every year. It's beautiful. It's well practiced. Compare this to the parade in Washington. It's day and night. This is what a professional parade should look like.
Right. Not what you see in certain professional partners in Europe, for example, where they show these guys walking out of step, out of line.
God, yes.
There's no organization to it. But you know, let's just for a moment, Stas, let's have a quick listen to this just for a moment here on RT International.
Motherland. I don't know who you are, Dimitri, but I agree with you.
Heartfelt songs. Here are some of the top officials now who are coming to sit down close to where the president will be sitting as well. A number of high officials there in attendance.
This is good, yes. Classic.
That was Medvedev as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we can hear this music from over our shoulders right now. Absolutely beautiful. Let's listen here.
Which song? What song is this?
The classic Soviet song.
Okay.
War song. About victory.
Well, lately I've been coming across a few new of the traditional Russian military songs, so.
Absolutely fantastic. Beautiful shots here as they've just wrapped up a huge musical anthem there with so many in attendance. Stanislav, you know, we have a number of veterans from the SMO, the Special Military Operation, in attendance today. How significant do you think this day feels to them, 81 years since the defeat of Nazism and fascism?
Well, a lot of these guys, they were born on the foundation of this, what was done, myself included. When I was 1971, you grew up with the stories from your grandfathers or sometimes your fathers, your uncles. You grew up with the movies. And you know, you listen to the music, and as a military man, I could say, you know, your backbone stiffens and you just straighten up.
Yeah.
It's that kind of effect.
Yeah. You know, you mentioned parents, family, grandparents. My paternal grandfather during World War II was a doctor, and he told me a couple of things that I thought were entertaining when I was a young man. But he said to me, you know, there was this British phrase when the American GIs started flying into England after the beginning of World War II, or the Great Patriotic War. 2 million American GIs went to England, and the British men didn't like them very much because these Americans showed up with this swagger, this confidence, and the British women were really quite entranced by the American GIs. And so the British men started saying, oh, these American soldiers in England, they're overpaid, they're oversexed, and they're over here. And then it was the Americans that came back with a retort.
That's the U.S. military, and especially the Marine Corps.
Undersexed and under Eisenhower. You know, so it was this kind of little thing going back and forth. But it was a time when the Allies were close, and they understood a common threat. Here now listen, just for a moment here, we've got these live pictures we're showing now from Red Square. The Russian president is arriving at the moment, and here he is getting up onto the main stage, and he's going to say a brief hello to a number of his officials there. Soon enough, Stas, he's going to be making a speech at the podium. Any expectations on commentary in the speech from Putin today? What are you expecting?
Unity, that's the number one thing. Traditional memory. This is the most important thing. We can't forget our roots. We can't forget the blood that was shed, because the moment we forget, we're going to repeat it. And unfortunately, Europe has forgotten, or has tried its best to forget. Look, the people in Kiev, this is not a day for celebration for these people. This is a day of tragedy, because they represent the side that lost. Unfortunate, because the majority of the Ukrainian people fought against the Nazism. Zelensky's own grandfather fought against the Nazis. I think he's turning in his grave to see what his grandson is and the people that his grandson supports and surrounds himself with. It's
so sad. It's tragic, actually, to see how certain players in the world are trying to rewrite history or whitewash history. We're just showing these live pictures here on RT International. There he is.
Let's see what Putin has to say.
Small note in his pocket there, maybe notes for his speech, but he's been saying hello to a lot of his top generals there. Let's just listen in just for a moment here, live on RT International.
And everybody watching, everybody lurking, this is live from Moscow right now.
Well, some happy faces. There's Lukashenko right there, the Belarusian leader as well. So we're almost going to kick off the parade here. You know, the world is changing, Stas. You know, a lot of people say that the United States essentially set the template for this new world order post-World War II. But now more and more people are saying that that's actually, it's almost archaic now. It's the old school system. There's a new sheriff in town. It's the multipolar world order. Why do you think we're there today?
Well, we're there because we couldn't be anywhere else. Look, World War II in America is oftentimes called the Good War. Not because they were fighting Hitler, but because they raised themselves up from the Great Depression to be premier military or economic power. Not military, but economic power. The problem is the world's caught up, and the significance of the United States has fallen. The United States deindustrialized post the Cold War. They don't talk about it, but they did. The United States is a debtor, is the biggest debtor in world history. Everything's piling up, and they don't want to let go. The majority, if you look at the majority of politicians in the United States, most of them should have retired 15, 20 years ago. They don't want to. They're still living in the 90s, the unipolar moment. They cannot psychologically look at reality the way it is now.
Well, I mean, the 90s were more or less pretty good for the United States. I mean, you know, you had the Gulf War and all this a couple of times, and the world at that point was still recognizing the American military as being really the top military in the world. But a moment ago, you mentioned Iran. You know, the German Chancellor Merz said about a week ago, he said less than a week ago that Iran is humiliating the United States. Here we go. Guys, have a listen to this.
Red Square. Parade under the state flag of the Russian Federation and the banner of victory. Attention. Present arms, face left. The state flag of the Russian Federation and the victory banner are brought onto Red Square. The assault flag raised by the soldiers of the 150th Idritskoye Rifle Division over the dome of the Reichstag building marked the long-awaited victory of the Soviet people in the Great Patriotic War. Through all these years, the sacred Scarlet Banner has remained a symbol of our motherland's courage, unbreakable resilience, and heroism. Today, the state flag of the Russian Federation and the victory banner are carried across Red Square by the finest servicemen of the Honor Guard of the 154th Preobrazhensky Independent Commandant's Regiment, Junior Lieutenant Dmitry Monastryov and Junior Sergeant Alexei Zhivayev. Leading the flag-bearing units are Captain Kirill Gorshinov and Lieutenant Anton Mikhailov.
So there are the Russian tricolour flag right there being held high and proud on the cobblestones of Red Square. Of course, there's Lukashenko in the center of your screen, the Belarusian leader, VVP, Vladimir Putin. Right next to him, the Russian president, of course. And here we have the march coming across Red Square. In fact, commanding the parade is Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Armed Forces, hero of the Russian Federation, Colonel General Andrei Morchachov. And the review of the parade formations of the Moscow garrisons, the review of the parade will begin shortly here on RT International. We're so grateful to have your company for such a special day as we show you these live pictures now from the heart of Red Square. 81 years since the defeat of Nazism and fascism, and yet the sentiment remains so strong all across the Russian Federation because, as we've said before, not a single family was left unaffected by what happened 81 years ago.
Yes.
The numbers beyond mind-boggling, and certainly a tragedy upon any way you look at it. Up to 27 million Soviets lost their lives in the Great Patriotic War. That's civilian and both military numbers as well. There's not a single country on the planet who had numbers even close to what the Soviets suffered. And you can see it written on the faces of Lukashenko and Putin there as well. They understand it's a somber moment here, but it is remembrance. As Putin has said so many times before, we will never forget the loss, the sacrifice, and the importance of the Great Patriotic War. You think back in 1941, when Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, and the Soviet Union had to react. It had to respond. It did not have a choice. When Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in history against that of the Soviet Union, the largest country in the world.
Parade, attention. Left face, present arms. The military parade commemorating the 81st anniversary of the Great Victory is reviewed by Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Andrei Belousov. Commanding the parade is the Commander-in-Chief of the Russian Ground Forces, hero of the Russian Federation, Colonel General Andrei Mordvichov. Comrade, Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, troops of Moscow garrison.
Yeah, what's up?
At the parade to commemorate the 81st anniversary of the Great Patriotic War are foreign.
My
The commander
tavares.
of the
Is it
parade,
just me, or
Colonel
they
General
actually is
Mordvichov.
RT not talking over it as much as it did last year? We're actually
No.
hearing the narration.
Yep. We're doing better this
It's
year.
It's much different. Yeah.
He's got Colonial 71. No, it's a Russian car.
The review of
Russian
the
car
parade
station.
formations of the Moscow garrison begins. Minister of Defense Andrei Belousov proceeds to greet the parade formations of the Combined Arms Academy of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, veterans of the Special Military Operation, the Korean People's Army, and the Zhukovsky Gagarin Air Force Academy.
Moscow is beautiful.
Greetings, comrades. Greetings,
Поздравляю
comrades.
вас с 81-й годовщиной победы в Великой Отечественной войне.
Big war.
God, it's almost deafening when you hear the hoorah. The Minister of Defense, Andrei Belousov, standing there with the red tie, as he's just been greeting all the
Hoorah!
different brigades
Hoorah!
and combined
Hoorah!
arms of the armed
Yes.
forces of the Russian Federation. Veterans, by the way, in attendance of the special military operation. Also, the Korean People's Army being represented here. Stas,
Wow.
that's an interesting point, that. The Korean military in attendance and being honored here. Brief comment from you?
Why not? They've shed their blood along the side of the Russian army. It's a forge. They forged a union in blood, quite literally in blood.
Yeah.
In Kursk, in the Kursk Oblast, destroying the invasion from NATO mercenaries, from the Ukrainian proxies that came in. They were murdering civilians, and the Koreans stood side by side. The Koreans stood side by side with the
Greetings,
Russian
comrades.
military and shed their blood the same to free those lands.
Поздравляю вас с 81-й
Congratulations on the 81st anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War.
Hoorah!
Hoorah!
Здравствуйте, товарищи!
Greetings, comrades.
Поздравляю вас!
Congratulations on the 81st anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War.
Yeah, so that's what Minister of Defense.
Just imagine standing. Imagine how to stand that still, that straight in a moving car.
Congratulating the parade formations of the Nakhimov.
I mean, that's just amazing to be able to keep that form, and and the general saluting too.
And the Ryazan Guards Higher Airborne Command School as well. Do you know, we could have done better with
Yana, do you think you could stand that still straight up in a moving car?
Yeah, I could. Yeah.
You could?
We
I
had a
couldn't.
beautiful spring in March, and then April the winter returned, and it's still a bit chilly today, but hopes are high, and it's a great event here with a lot of true sentiment.
Здравствуйте, товарищи!
Greetings, comrades.
Поздравляю вас!
Congratulations on the 81st anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War.
Hurrah!
Hurrah!
So the Minister of Defense, Andrei Bulusov, there, he's going through and he's essentially greeting all these different formations, I should say. It's not just brigades or the marching band, a lot of students also from various academies here as well, as I understand, Stas.
Absolutely. And that's a tradition. This is the future of the Russian military. This is the future of the officer corps, and they're represented.
Yeah. Meantime, there are more than 1,000 veterans of the special military operation in attendance for this event here on Red Square. Can you believe it? 81 years since the end of the Great Patriotic War, the end of World War II. And yet, according to some details, according to AI on the internet these days, the world is living at one of the most dangerous times ever since the end of World War II. With numerous conflicts being gauged all around the world. And it is a worrying time for that. And that is why it's so important that we remind the world what happened 81 years ago and the enormous price the Soviet Union paid for that. Just one moment, let's have a quick listen as they're wrapping up. Bulusov is just about to wrap up his meet and greet with all the different members of the different branches of the military and, of course, of the academies as well. Let's watch this. Here we go.
Well, here we go. I want to hear the speech.
Comrade Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Russian Federation, troops of the Moscow garrison, for the parade to celebrate the 81st anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War are ready. Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation, Belousov. At ease. Citizens of Russia, veterans, comrade soldiers and sailors, sergeants and sergeant majors, midshipmen and warrant officers, comrade officers, generals and admirals, soldiers and commanders, participants in the special military operation, guests, I congratulate you on the Victory Day, on our holy, sacred, and most important holiday. We celebrate it with a sense of pride and love for our country, with understanding of our common duty to defend the interests and the future of our motherland. We mark it with the gratitude of true sons of the great generation of victors. We honor the legacy left by the soldiers of victory. The care of the fatherland unites our entire country, the people of Russia, and preserving the memory of the events of the Great Patriotic War, of its true history, of its true heroes, is a matter of honor for us. We will always remember the heroic deeds of the Soviet people, because Soviet people made the decisive contribution to defeating Nazism. The Soviet people saved their country and saved the world. They put an end to the total evil, and it brought the sovereignty to those states that surrendered to the Nazi Germany and turned into accomplices of its crimes. Our soldiers suffered huge losses, made huge sacrifices in the name of freedom and dignity of the peoples of Europe. It has become a model of heroism and courage, of fortitude and humanity, and it brought to the Soviet people the great honor of the great victory. Friends, June 22nd of 1941 is one of the most tragic days of our history. This year, we are going to mark 85th anniversary of the beginning of the Great Patriotic War. The Nazi soldiers attacked the Soviet Union. They planned to seize the country, to seize its wealth, to destroy its culture, its historic legacy, and to destroy and enslave and genocide of the multi-ethnic Soviet people, of all the Soviet peoples, of all the ethnic groups of the Soviet Union. And to implement these criminal plans, they gathered forces throughout Europe. Seemingly, the Nazi strategists took everything into consideration, but one thing, what we call Russian character and the strength of the spirit and of the will of the Soviet people. And these qualities are manifested in the most challenging times for the motherland. Our people stood its ground in front of the enemy, and they proved that being faithful to one's motherland is the highest degree of righteousness that can bring people together. We remember heroic deeds of the soldiers, of the sailors, of the partisans, of the underground movement and resistance fighters, of the efforts by the home front, of the efforts of the farmers, because the front lines and the home front stood together. True patriotism, true sacrifice of the people brought it above the enemy. It made it stronger and made the faith in the ultimate victory stronger as well. And we had this victory, we won this victory, and every family remembers this. And this memory is in the hearts of our children, of our grandchildren, and we bow down to those who fell during those battles, those who were killed in occupation or in camps, who were killed in besieged Leningrad and other cities and towns. We bow down to everyone who gave their life for the motherland, for Russia. We bow down to the sons and daughters, to the fathers and mothers, to the grandfathers, great-grandfathers, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, close ones, and friends. Let us now observe a moment of silence.
Дорогие друзья, великий подвиг поколения победителей.
The great heroic deeds of the generation of victors inspires the soldiers who are fulfilling the missions of the special military operation. They stand against the aggressive force that is being armed by the entire NATO bloc. And in spite of these, our heroes continue to move forward. Next to our soldiers, there are workers, engineers, scientists, inventors. They continue the traditions of those who came before them. They create advanced, unique weapons, and they launch their production en masse. But no matter how the weapons are changing, how the tactics are changing, one thing remains unchanged. The fate of the country is done by its citizens, by the soldiers, by the workers, by the farmers, by the weapon makers, by the conflict correspondents, by doctors and by teachers, by artists and by priests, volunteers and entrepreneurs, all the citizens of Russia. And our success is in our moral strength, in our courage, in our unity, in our ability to withstand everything, to overcome any challenges. We share one common destiny, and everyone makes their personal contribution to the victory, which is gained both at the front lines and at the home front. I believe that our cause is just. We stand together. The victory has always been and will always be ours. Glory to the victorious nation. Glory to the veterans. Glory to the armed forces of Russia. Happy holiday. Happy Victory Day. Hurrah! Today, on the day of the great victory, servicemen of the armed forces of the Russian Federation are on combat duty, protecting the land, air, and maritime borders of our motherland. The personnel of the joint group of forces are carrying out combat missions in the zone of the special military operation.
На полигоне подразделение морской пехоты отрабатывает действия штурмовых групп и захвата опорных пунктов противника.
Assault and seizing the command posts of the enemy using specialized vehicles and equipment.
Наблюдаю.
Успешные действия гвардейского соединения
Successful actions by the Central Group of Forces in the Special Military Operation Zone is attained by daily training with tank crews in cooperation with the support vehicles Terminator. With the support of the assault crews and the destruction of the targets, the modern artillery is used modern systems called Gatsin-K and Malva, and also multiple fire systems, Tornado S and Uragan. Happy Victory Day to commemorate the heroic deeds of our predecessors is our wealth, our richness. Today we bow down to the heroic deeds of the Soviet people and Soviet soldiers. Personnel of the airborne forces are working on the joint actions with the unmanned vehicles crews and battle vehicles to attack the command posts. The glorious legacy is continued by the soldiers and troops in the Special Military Operations Zone. On behalf of the 150th Guards Idritska Division, I would like to congratulate you on the great holiday, on the Victory Day. The wide use of and aerial vehicles brought about the new type of forces, unmanned vehicles, forces that is equipped with the state-of-the-art unmanned aerial vehicles to support the assault crews. The unmanned crew is launching Molnia 2 vehicle. It's also using reconnaissance
How do you feel about
and striking vehicles to destroy vehicles
About
and
what,
to
the
kill the
drones?
enemy forces. And
No,
now we can see
what
there
they're
are
saying.
unmanned vehicle and Landsat unmanned vehicle.
It's very interesting with the technology, though,
And the command
and the tactics.
post of the joint group of
But
forces, the control of the troops in the Special Military Operations Zone
NATO
is
encroached
at
in our
the
territory.
reconnaissance of the enemy territory.
Well, that leads a big debate here in the States specifically, because a lot of part of that is, it's interesting how NATO chooses when it wants to get involved or not. That's like the Brits, French, and Italians deciding to do something there, but yet we do something with Iran, they don't want to support us. So much for an alliance with people, because usually when somebody goes in, you're supposed to react with your allies, not decide when you're going to be involved or not.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you put boots on the ground, I mean, even the U.S. government did that, years ago, with starting to arm one side versus the other.
I think it's very simple. I think it's very simple in this situation. You don't come into my house with your shit. And if you want to encroach, then I'm going to slap back.
Well, encroach is a nice word that they're using, but really basically what happened is they declared war on Russia with that.
Yep.
You put troops on the ground, you end up going in there, then you're or even arming to, at what point are you really become a combatant and versus, a neutral party? And if you're, big issues right there.
The Russia is fighting right now. If Putin wanted to,
right, this whole thing could be a much wider war if either side wanted to do it. Yeah, exactly.
But no, the Ukrainians are our people.
The goals, to look for the goals of the missile defense.
We are one. We don't just nuke our own.
Physical principles and can destroy satellites and
you want to play games? Let's play some freaking games. But this is not playing games. This is people losing their lives right now.
Capability of intercepting ballistic and aerodynamic targets high in the air. Radio location.
People are paying with their lives.
Control of the most dangerous directions.
It just
it's very, very true with all of that. I mean, like NATO encroachment, it's like I personally find it very interesting how NATO decided to get involved in this one when many times they won't get involved in other situations. And I actually, we've talked about some things off the air, and I don't want to derail this, but it's it's funny many times how Britain and France has now decided to be when they want to go to war, and and then drag everybody else along with them, and then other times they don't want to, don't use our air bases, and I mean, don't even get started on the British military and the quality of its navy right now. That's well known as the weakness of the British Navy, like more admirals and ships and stuff, combat ships. It's but anytime you get involved, you have to have consideration for the larger geopolitical issues. You're not neutral.
The Russian Federation possesses the entire range of the nuclear deterrence means that ensures the safety of the country and can do a response strike. And the foundation of the strategic forces of Russia is the Yars complexes that can be placed in various regions of the country and put on combat duty. Hypersonic complex is a unique and invincible system that can withstand any missile defense
That's
systems
the most
of the
important
enemy.
thing. The cats are fed.
Strategic.
If the cats are not fed, then you will
60 is used
get a nuke
to
strike.
launch the state-of-the-art strategic
Yes, got to keep the cats happy.
Our crew of
Happy
our
Victory Day.
Tu-160 plane. I would like to congratulate everyone on the day of the great victory. Submarine Knyaz Vladimir, Count Vladimir, is part of the maritime strategic forces that can deal a nuclear strike against the essential and vital targets in the enemy territory. On behalf of our crew,
Oh,
I
nice
would like
cheers.
to congratulate everyone on the day of the great victory. We are proud of our victory.
If only everybody had office chairs like that.
Yeah.
Frontline veterans and home front veterans. Parade, attention.
Okay, there we go. March.
Forward march.
God, I love my country. I love my city. Moscow is so
Form
cool.
up battalions. First battalion forward march, and the rest right face. Present arms. Right face, forward march.
Here we go. Oh, this is my favorite part.
Well, the parade really getting into full effect here as we continue our live coverage here on RT International. We saw a very moving speech by the Russian President, Vladimir Putin. I think if you were to take one word away from his speech, it would be the word of unity.
Yes.
Describing how, for example, all of Russia is galvanized. All of Russia is united in the event, of course, with a special military operation ongoing in Ukraine. Some of the comments from the Russian president, he said, we're all celebrating the pride and love for Russia. We are focused on defending the fatherland. Putin saying we honor the legacy of all those preserving memory of the great patriotic war. Putin said the Soviet people made the decisive victory against Nazi Germany. And it's fair to say it was the Soviets that got to Berlin first. It was the Red Army that could the flag up on top of the Reichstag at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was the Soviets who stormed Berlin, who pushed the Germans all the way back from Russian territory and all the way back to Germany. Putin did say that today's soldiers in the special military operation, they are standing firm against aggression from NATO.
Yep.
And then after the president made his speech, we watched a video showing the work of Russian soldiers up and down the front lines of the combat zone in the special military operation, showing new levels of high-tech weaponry, how warfare has changed over the years. In fact, let's bring in Stas Krapivnik one more time on this, former US Army officer, because when we were showing what was essentially a highlight reel in one way or another, they were showing drones and how drones have really changed the state of warfare as we know it. How have drones affected it?
Look, there's two things that drones have done. One is
I agree.
It's almost impossible to move stealthily.
Yep.
It's almost impossible to mass troops. Everything is visible now. The other thing is well, what's keeping the Ukrainian defense right now is drones. That is a problem that has to be over. It's the same that it's drones are now part of the battlefield.
Yeah.
They're
next year we see the
battlefield that you see every day. And it just it adds a new level of tension, a new level of difficulty.
Yeah, it's and I know, for example, that it's taken the European sponsors of Ukraine a couple of years to really get up to speed and start having warehouses that are making drones en masse. They've been trying to catch up to Russia, frankly. But it seems as though they're now producing over 1 million a year, whether it's in Germany or the UK. They are specializing in mass production of drones. But how do you fight off the mass production of drones? What is your defense against these things?
Well, there's a lot of point defenses, from lasers to netting to shotguns, but there's new weapon systems that are coming on the ground because it's a constant race between offense and defense. And what we're looking at on breaking-edge technology is electromagnetic pulse weaponry in the form of microwave.
Is that the Malaysian?
Microwave dishes.
No,
So that's
I was
possibly
wondering. I was wondering if that was a
there
Korean
to
one.
Take away that offensive capability from drones.
Maybe
And
it is
effective
Malaysia.
weapon systems like that.
Sure.
So there's possibilities. We're going to see a lot of.
Actually, it might be
drones when it comes
to. This is a constant race.
I think the flag might have been Korean if I saw it right.
2021, 2022, where we're at right now. We have drones now with artificial intelligence. They're picking targets of their own.
Yeah.
So there's a huge leap in just 4 years, and the leap is continuing, including defensive systems.
Yeah. So it's
Now,
all,
what
it's
are
all
all these
changed.
different
When
units,
you consider, for example,
Anna?
a lot of the military tech from World War II.
Are these different countries, or are they different Russian
They're different
military?
Yeah, they're different
almost
military.
antiquated. Yes. I mean, we're talking. Some of them are many
How can
decades
you
old, and yet
identify
these
what they
American
are?
ships, for example,
Oh,
in the
wow.
Persian Gulf, when they're faced with Iranian drones or Iranian
Beautiful
missiles, it's
choreography,
amazing.
all in
It's
step.
nuts. It's almost like they have to retrofit everything.
But like
across
this, is that?
Navy or
That's what I was going to ask Russian Navy.
today's reality.
I'll correct you a little bit, Rory.
Do it.
They're not in the Persian Gulf, because if they were in the Persian Gulf, they'd be reached by now. They're in the Indian Ocean, and when the fighting, when the shooting starts, they run away as far as they can. They're making huge circles around the Indian Ocean, because if they get anywhere close enough to striking distance on Iran, Iran will sink them. That's the reality of modern technology.
But you talk about Iran, this was a war of choice for Donald Trump. A lot of people saying that Netanyahu dragged him into it, but whatever the outcome, whatever the case, you've got the world being held hostage essentially by two people.
Yes.
And that's Benjamin Netanyahu and that's Donald Trump. The
Yes.
entire world now is paying the price for them essentially creating this crisis in Iran, and Iran saying, well, you know what, now we're going to have issues with the Hormuz Strait. And so all of this could have been avoidable. But there is something about the United States where, as you said to me, in its 250 years of being alive and being, it only had 16 or whatever years of peace. 12.
So,
Okay,
yes,
12,
what she
correct.
said, that's North
But,
Korea.
I saw a military analyst. It wasn't even Scott Ritter who said,
Malaysian flag similar to US.
America cannot survive without wars. But I was curious as to why is that? Is it the military-industrial complex, or is it the hegemon? What is it?
This war made Russia
What
stronger.
unifies Russia? First of all, it's the Russian culture. The majority of the population shares the same religious faith. It's tolerant with all the other faiths, but there's still the majority with one faith and majority of one culture that incorporates the other cultures. What does the U.S., the modern U.S. particularly have in common?
The Marines.
It's very disparate people. It's very multi-religious. A lot of cultures, subcultures that are in conflict with each other. So you have to have the enemy without to be able to try to unify everybody around. And Donald Trump's proven that it no longer works. Because look, every time an American president starts a war, regardless if it's a war of choice or not, he gets to rally around the flag effect.
Yeah.
This one had none of that. They have not been able to sell this war, no matter how they phrase it. It changes every day what they're trying to say because they don't know how to sell this war.
Yeah. It's it's just so sad. I mean, the poor Middle East. The Middle East has been set on fire by some of the usual culprits for so many years. I mean, Iran, by the way, it was the British who got under the skin of Iran in the late 19th century, in the 1800s, when they were going after the oil in Iran. And the agreement with Iran said, look, you can have the oil, but reinvest 20, 30, 40% of it back into our schools, roads, infrastructure. And the British, over 150 odd years ago, said, okay, we will. And of course, it did not.
Right.
And you wonder why Iran has this sense for well over a century. We can't trust these guys. They cannot be trusted.
Look, Iran hasn't started a war in over 200 years. The U.S.
Government, you want to read that?
Without starting a war. And that's the reality we're dealing with.
The Malaysian king went without the military. Some brass may be with him for evaluation of the Su-57, though.
The Germans all the way back through.
I got to see what that Su-57 is, though.
Banner was raised on the roof of the Reichstag. It was roughly 3 o'clock in the morning on May the 1st, 1945. The Reichstag, of course, a very symbolic target selected by the Soviet leadership for the final flag raising, marking the end of what was the Battle of Berlin. But did you know that before the Belarusian and Russian team got that flag up there were 40 attempts earlier to get the flag on the building during the intense fighting. It took that long for it to be successful, because the Battle of Berlin was something that people haven't seen perhaps since then.
And here we go!
The Soviet military pushed back almost the entire United Europe. In fact, the last brigade of the Charlemagne division fought its way into Berlin to defend Hitler because they were an SS division, French division. The Russian military, the Soviet military, they came in there, and the key thing is what they did that day. They turned around soup kitchens for the German population from day one.
And you hear that right there? The renowned acrobatic teams, the Russian Knights and the Swifts flying the Su-30 and MiG-29 fighter jets right over our heads here. Can't hear a thing.
I remember seeing this first time last year with you, this flyover.
Moscow and Red
Come
Square.
on, guys.
By the way, that's
fly the colors.
Doing these days.
I remember this. I remember this last year. It was very impressive. Still impressive now.
In English, it's a bit of a workhorse in Ukraine and elsewhere. But you've got the Su-30, Su-35s. You've got the MiGs. What is the state of the Russian Air Force today?
I think it's better than it's been in decades, since the Soviet Union collapsed. They've got high experience. They got a lot of experience, by the way, in Syria. Because when the Russian military got involved in Syria, from the West, the commentators were 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They'll collapse. Years later, and they're still working, and they rotated the pilots through. So all these pilots had combat experience in real life environments. So they're at a very high state of being.
I mean, look, every year in the UK, there's the Farnborough Air Show, and they bring in air forces from all around the world, and the Americans are there, of course, en masse, and they get a lot of, I don't know, special treatment, should we say. But I've heard the American pilots say to me at the Farnborough Air Show, we're secretly here to watch the Russians, because the Russians are the ones who was with some a lot of it's kind of a hidden high-tech stuff they have on these jets, but the Russian pilots, they pull G's, they do maneuvers that even the other guys won't do.
Well, a lot of it is the technology behind the jets that allows them to do that without stalling out. Look, Russian planes, not all the models, of course, can do maneuvers and turn around on a dime. Something that for a regular modern jet would take several kilometers to do all that full turnaround. This is Russian engineering. This is why Russia graduates more engineers, not per capita, but in actual numbers than any other country in the world.
But I had a Russian colleague of mine, one of my favorite Russian colleagues for many years, and I was talking to him about the Soviet space program.
And I was telling him, because I've always been intrigued by the space program, and I said to him, how was it with the Soviets? How did it go? Because as I understand, the Soviets were winning the space race. Yes. They were winning the missile race, the space race, and then the Americans got to the moon, right? So
supposedly,
I'm not going to go there.
Supposedly.
But when it comes to the Soviets, they were winning.
Yeah, he went there.
Roscosmos, a major player in the stars today, satellites. In fact, Russia's putting up satellites on a very regular basis these days. They put up one just the other day that was it said package undisclosed in that one. So that was essentially top secret there. Just having a quick look here. This is the Russian president shaking hands with war veterans here. And as I understand, if I'm not mistaken, he's going to be making his way to the tomb of the unknown soldier, where there'll be a wreath-laying ceremony. In fact, the Slovak president,
Every time I go to Moscow, I always
he
put
laid
a
a
flower
wreath
to
at the tomb of the unknown soldier as well. Here we go. Look
Yeah,
at this.
tomb of the
There's a veteran
unknown
there.
soldier.
I wouldn't even
I
guess how
always
old
do
he
that
is, but
every
the
single
average
time.
age of
That's
the
very
veteran
nice.
is
Do they
98
have that their tomb guarded by a guard 24/7?
The level of sacrifice,
no.
just to understand this.
I believe that in Washington, ours has always got a guard on duty, in spite of the weather.
10% of them survived to the end of the war.
It's just the
Well,
numbers.
Sashi
It's
says
just-
the
it's hard to
U.S.
get
Air
your head
Force
around numbers
trains
like that
with the
today.
Malaysian
Those were the
Air
first
Force
people that took the
because we're
brunt of
operating Russian aircraft.
Hitler's
that
new
are
European order
US
marching
ally.
into the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Those were the
And
one men that
Dmitry
stopped it
says
first.
Putin is
You
the only
and I were
president
talking
I've
about this
seen
earlier.
that's
It was
nice to his
1939
people.
that the Soviet Union signed this non-aggression pact with Nazi Germany. But in the years prior to that, a whole handful of other European nations were signing non-aggression pacts with Nazi Germany, the Hitler regime. In fact, the Soviet Union, if I'm not mistaken, was the last one to sign this non-aggression pact with Germany.
The British and the French signed in 1933.
33. How many
Poland
years
in
before
1934.
1939?
That's right. Poland was 1934.
Wow.
Poland, by the way, was the representative of Nazi Germany in the League of Nations.
Yeah.
People don't forget about it. And Poland got a chunk of Czechoslovakia when that was divided up. So, yes, Stalin was the last one, but that's what everybody remembers.
Yeah, well, of course, that's
from the West. That
yeah,
is.
well, it's amazing. Even with myself just doing research on May 9th, which I do every year, if you're doing it on essentially Google or something like that, you have to search for such a long time just to get close to what's accurate. You understand the system, even in that way, is against you. The algorithms and all that. When you're trying to find the truth of such an important history, and it's been said by so many, there are certain players today that are looking to whitewash it or to change it. I mean, even
And this is why I decided to do the stream.
Soros and his company, by the way, they're evil. They're not stupid. And they went into the business of rewriting textbooks. Textbooks for every country. They rewrite their history books, their sociology books, and so on, because that's how you brainwash the next generation. And they're very effective at it. And by the way, when you use things like Chat GPT, use Grok, all that, you get the same propaganda out of those supposed artificial intelligence. They're just regurgitating in a slightly different form. Same thing that you're getting out of the Google when you do the first search. You have to search deep to actually get historical facts.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Meantime, we're still showing live pictures here on RT International with our continued special coverage here. 81 years marking the victory of the great.
Well, and the AI can be wrong. They got all these disclaimers. We're learning
and the Russian
our stuff. It's like, how can you trust any of it?
Way to there as we speak. But,
also, don't forget the non-aggression pact with Japan that they signed. Also,
guess what? It's also the most sanctioned.
That's why you need to. Oh God, this is what like. Oh,
more than Iran ever
read
had, or
books.
Korea, or whoever you want to choose on America. Or the
Learn history.
But,
get your facts from actually like critically thinking, not just Googling something and it says something. No.
How can you be the most sanctioned country in the world and still have
Oh,
the fourth
here we
biggest
go.
economy
That's
in terms of
interesting.
PPP?
Well, first of all, I'll give you a little hint on it. Almost 30% of the American economy and a very large chunk of the English economy is international finance. That doesn't manufacture anything but debt. So when you take that out, those economies already go down quite a lot. But look, we're lucky enough to live in a nation that could quite literally wall itself off and be self-sufficient. There's no other nation in the world that can feed itself, fuel itself, give itself enough industrial products, clothes, house, and build
But what about all the high-tech stuff, Stas?
Yes.
Because this is part, you know.
Well,
part of
you
the
know,
reason
it's really
that
amazing considering like you like
Don't
what
let them get their
happened in the
hands on this
90s
stuff
and
in
stuff
China,
and
or wherever
how
else
it's
it may
transformed
be.
since the
But,
90s, you know,
the sanctions
because
haven't worked.
there were the bread lines and everything, but look what's happened. Like you said, they
Well,
can feed themselves and everything
he's
now.
making a point right
We
now
saw
about
that,
the
we saw that
sanctions.
first time in 1998 when the ruble collapsed because of the scheme that they had under Yeltsin. The Western manufacturers left, and the Russian manufacturers took over, and the economy burst forward. So the sanctions have done the same thing. They've cleared up the field, and the Russian companies have come in there, and yes, some Chinese companies have come in there, and others. And there's been a big
that happens so often where sanctions meant to punish actually help
dominating the market. So yes,
who
it's
was
actually worked
the
great.
target of them.
And Russia's in a position where it can also support China, Iran, and its other allies. Something that Europe
You
can't
guys
do.
in the West helped us.
Yeah, indeed. The Russian president is now arriving.
Well, we're here to help.
Soldier, just for a moment, let's right now listen in live on RT International. Have a look.
The flowers. Every time.
Very interesting marching styles.
I'm proud of my country. Yeah.
One of the best national anthems around anywhere.
Well, I really don't know any national anthem as moving as the Russian national anthem. It just doesn't matter how many times I hear it. It just fills you with such a sense of something. I don't know what it is. The Russian national anthem, it moves me every single time I hear it. We just saw Presidents Putin, Lukashenko, Tokayev laying this enormous wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier. It was a moving ceremony and a moving parade as well. Your thoughts?
You're absolutely right. It speaks to the soul.
Yeah.
Anybody has a soul, it speaks to that soul.
It does.
Yeah.
It just does. It just touches you in such a way as May the 9th always touches everybody, particularly here for the Russian Federation. 25 to 27 million Soviets, civilian and military casualties lost in the Great Patriotic War. No one again paid that price. And that is why it's so important, as Putin said, to remind the world, to remind everyone that that must never be allowed to happen again. But it's been a successful parade here on Red Square on this May 9th, 2026. How we got to 2026, I can't even imagine. You know, you look at what's happening in the world today. I'm kind of surprised the world was still spinning on its axis. There's so much madness happening today. But give me your thoughts about today and the future we're walking into, Stas.
Well, hope. That's the only thing we have.
Yeah.
It's in God's hands, as Vladimir Vladimirovich said.
Yeah.
Russia is under God, otherwise it wouldn't exist. And that's the way it is.
Yeah.
We can only hope, and we can do what needs to be done.
Unity is something that Vladimir Putin was emphasizing during the speech to all of those in attendance on Red Square. And it's something, a word as simple as that. It all rings a bell with all of us when you consider the history of Russia, the history of the Soviet Union. And it's always been the biggest boy on the block. You know, you can go back to the propaganda of 150 years ago, Atlantic magazine and other ones, with a front cover of the Soviet Union as an octopus, wrapping its tentacles around Europe. I mean, that was hardcore propaganda 100 years ago.
And it wasn't just, that wasn't the first time. That propaganda actually came out over 150 years ago with Tsarist Russia as a huge octopus. So they keep repeating the same themes over and over again. It's the same Russophobic fear for several hundred years, and they just won't stop.
And yet you think about royal bloodlines in Europe, you know, the Nicholas Alexander, the Tsars, blood relatives to the British royal family. And the British royal family, they could have saved them.
They could have.
They could have saved them.
But they saved the Jews.
They saved the Jews instead. Some people have said around the time of the Red Revolution, when Nicholas and Alexandra were, they said if Queen Victoria had been alive at the time, she would never have allowed any of that to happen. But here we are. I don't want to say history repeats, but we have got a bad habit of running into the same brick wall time and time again. Stanislav Krepivnik, a former U.S. Army officer, born in Lugansk. 1971. Just to remind everyone how old you are.
Oh, thank you.
It's okay. I'm just a couple years behind you, Stas.
I try to hide it.
Yeah. Looking good, though. Thank you very much for joining us here for our special coverage.
He's just a little bit younger than me. Hey.
And thank you as well for joining us here. It's RT International live on May the 9th, 2026.
Happy Victory Day, everyone!
And the world.
We won the war!
Here live on RT
Happy Victory Day, Anna.
I'm Rory Susha.
Happy 9th of May.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, I love it.
Love the pageantry, love the uniforms, just the music, everything.
Support Russia is the most sanctioned country and makes better missiles, drones, planes, everything. Exactly.
Well, one of the points that the officer made, the former U.S. officer made, and it's a very important point, is I guess in Russia, it's the government, it's the defense, the military that controls the production. Sashi's pointing out here about something about the U.S. defense companies. It's all private sector driven, and contract theft, contract corruption has been a sore spot in American history for over 200 years, even well back into and before the Civil War. Shoddy materials, it was all profit before weaponry and stuff. World War II, the early days of the torpedoes, the U.S. torpedoes for torpedo bombers and submarines were duds. They would actually circle around, and they actually destroyed some of their own U.S. submarines. But it was a fight. You had to get through the bureaucracy because they didn't believe anybody. They refused to believe them. And then finally, you had to fight the contractors to get the attention within the purchasing system to actually make changes. And I think that's one advantage is when you have the military actually hands-on controlling it versus leaving it all. Private sector can deal with a lot, but profit motives.
Controversial take.
I don't agree with that though, sir. But hey, but as an American, but hey, we all, it's a great day, great history. We're allies, and I think that's what a lot of people have lost, especially over here in the States, is we've lost the history of the alliance and the allies. What we did, like the video that I showed you, because you ask, why do Russian soldiers back then ask, why do America hate us? Why do But then the video showed those guys that actually were in the prison camps, both American and Russians, bonded. They were brothers, and that's where it really, touches you. Is at the end of the day, it's not the governments and not the systems; it's actual people, the guys on the ground that actually fought and lived this stuff, and the people that actually had the war fought in their properties. You
want to read that?
The British has their fair share of military procurement snafus. The mosquito was one of them. Yes, the mosquito. Yeah, that was a bad gnat for sure. But yeah. So, but no, it's wonderful. It's great to remember history. It's what a great day, and I appreciate you inviting me on again. This is the second year in a row we watched it together.
Yes, it's a very special occasion, and I do appreciate every single person who watched it with it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of like choking up a little bit because it's such a special day for me.
That's awesome. It's patriotism. You love your country, and
I do.
You love the history. Yeah,
I do. I will never forget what people sacrificed. It's such an important day for every Russian. There is not a Russian in this world who is not sitting here right now on the 9th of May and saying, I know this day. This means something.
Well, I'll tell you, as an American, I miss stuff like this. I wish we had more stuff like this. I wish we really had to celebrate our history, the history like this. I also am sad that we're not there celebrating it either because of all the stuff that's going on. Because we have been there before, we should be there. We are allies, and for this monumental thing, stand against Nazism, and it should be respected and remembered, no matter what the current world situation is. Let's remember the bonds that made us friends and made us, come together and really, deal with evil that had to be dealt with.
Well, that's very subjective. For somebody, it's evil. For somebody else, it's not. But in this case, it is very objective and non-subjective.
Right.
But what was happening in the world was very, very evil.
And as an American,
just like my mom, and I want to say a big thank you for my mom.
Yes.
Joining when she had the time. But like she said, sorry, I'm like choking up because it's so important to me. But like she said, there's not a family. It's like what the president said. There's not a family in Russia who has not been somehow impacted by what happened. My granddaddy had to hide in a outhouse so the Germans would not kidnap him. My grandmother, her mother, my great-grandmother, had to entertain German soldiers doing things I don't even want to mention. So there has not been a family or anybody that, and when you think about it, it comes into your yard, it comes into your house, and this is what happens. So why do you think Russians are very anti-NATO? You're, again, encroaching on our... we went through this before. No, sorry. You're not well. You can sit here and do your own little reconnaissance, whatever your little thing, but you don't start little revolutions and little this and little sneaky that. No. Of course we're going to stand up and say, no, enough is enough. We're not going into Cuba. We're not encroaching on your territory in the United States. Nobody's doing that. We're not on your borders. Nobody cares. Leave us alone. Let us, we have our own resource, and this is the thing. It's because Russia has a lot of resources. But things like that, that happened back, do we forget that and never remember it? No. I will always remember. I will always remember what the Germans did. What they did to the Americans, what they did to the French, what they did to the Soviets, what they did to the Jewish people, everything that they did, I will always remember. And I will never forget. And this is why this day is so important in history, is to remember and never, ever go down that route of, oh, it's just a page in a history book. Nobody cares about it anymore. We got TikTok now. We got all this other stuff going on. No. Kids need to remember this so we do not repeat this shit. Because right now what's happening, we are repeating the same thing. Sashi says, my parents hid out in the jungle and nobody follows us into our jungles. And Dmitry says, NATO also rejected Russia. Finland joined and wanted Ukraine to join. Yep. Sadly, most countries don't care about history. Yep. But we do. This is why I wanted to do this, because this was important for me. And thank you very much, Jadman, for joining me. And I want to thank Jay as well, my mom for stepping in, everybody in chat. Thank you very much. This is so just intrinsically like, it's my soul.
Mm-hmm. What? Allow me to say,
being patriotic, or it is something about really loving where you come from,
and that's good. I think in some countries, especially in the West, that's being demonized. If you're too patriotic, even say like in the U.S., some of us that really love our country and are proud of us, our own people rip us down. Well, you're being nationalistic, or you're being blah blah blah. America.
Well, they actually call you a Nazi. They call you a Nazi.
Yeah, things like that. Yeah,
fucking hypocritical.
Yeah, well, it's coming. Yeah, a lot of times on the left, and they do that, and like uber nationalism, that you can be too proud in your country and all. U.S. has done a lot of good stuff. So as an American, I'm proud of my country. Have we done everything right? No. But I tell you what I do appreciate is I appreciate times like this, Anna. This is the second year we watch it. I have learned so much, and I've learned there's more information out there as a Westerner, as an American, and and actually stuff that I learn, I verify independently too, and I'm actually engaging people with this stuff, not accepting what we're given just through the mainstream media these days. Because people don't view NATO as encroaching. Well, the problem is yeah, you did. You are. There's a war. When the U.S. sends weapons to one side but not the other, you kind of have engaged on a side. So, but that's like I said, that's what's beautiful about these moments. We can learn from you. I just wish that more attention in the West was given to this type of stuff, these events, and actually talking about the real history behind the scenes, and not just whitewash stuff.
Sashi. I still have a white privilege. I was so happy. I never had privilege before. Yeah.
But thank you again, Anna. I really have learned a lot in the last year, and I appreciate your friendship, and for hosting this for me and for everybody else.
Of course. That's what I'm here for. So now the parade is over. I already see Ukraine will break the ceasefire. So probably. Yep. Don't get me started on that. Oh, good Lord.
Don't worry. I'll sit here in the back chat, and you can talk for an hour. So.
Yeah, no.
Yep.
I don't want to go into the Ukraine because Ukrainians are there are brothers and Kievskaya Rus. Like who was it that said that? Was it Sasha? No, it was Andy.
Right.
Kievskaya Rus. This is when the Rurik, the Viking from Scandinavia, came in and united all the Slavs. And put everybody together, and it created Kievskaya Rus. Russia, Rus comes from the Viking Rus. It's what they used to call it. That's where it comes from. That's where Russia, Rus, Russia. And it's just like there's so much history and so much beautiful stuff that people don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And even with like the Second World War, there's so much stuff that is like behind the scenes and whatever. But today it was very simplistic, I have to say. There wasn't a lot of pageantry. In terms of like before, you would have parades where you'd have like the tanks going down and showing off the military stuff. It was just like your paratroopers, your Navy, your Marines.
Yeah. So I think last year they had some of the tanks and the missiles. I think last year, but hey,
yeah.
For me it's pageantry because we don't get a lot of that formal dress marching music stuff in this country. We really don't.
Yeah. Sashi says Southeast Asians call each other names all the time. And then South Korea decided to mock us recently. Big mistake. Only we can bully each other. Oh, well, you gotta get Mrs. in there.
Oh yeah. Tell that to Johnny Somali. Don't mess with the Asian people; they will get you.
Yeah, they had a lot of different. They back in the day when they had Merkel and they had the U.S. Who was it? It wasn't Obama. It wasn't Obama. I don't remember. Somebody like a representative from the U.S.
Right.
They had all the different countries. They had the Scottish people in there with their bagpipes doing a whole show. Then they had the cavalry, the Cossacks coming in.
Oh yeah, I remember the Cossacks. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they had other stuff. Now it's because we are at war. Well, not we, but you know what I mean. You can't really do a lot of, let's make it like it's a horrible thing that's happening. People are sacrificing their lives right now.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And you can't really do like it's a little bit morbid and very tasteful and very just okay, yeah, we did this, great. At the end of the day, what do? We put flowers to the unknown soldier.
Mm-hmm.
In oi oi, happy Victory Day. Happy Victory Day. Yes, Russia is defending itself. And Sashi says, our military is mostly made up of sneaky boys. Oh. We don't engage in regular warfare much. Lesson from World War II.
Yep. Yep, like a lot of the American Revolution, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I just want to say, like Grant said, oi oi, happy Victory Day. We fought, all of us together. We had different countries, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, India, China, everybody fought together. There is not one country in the well, Switzerland, I guess.
Good old Swiss, not just the cheese.
Not just the chocolate either.
There you go.
Yeah. Everybody fought. Everybody did something. And that is what makes it beautiful. And Dmitry says, I just wish NATO would back off and let... No, they're not going to do that. Military-industrial complex. No, they're not going to do that.
You know, Dwight Eisenhower, the American general over D-Day, warned when he was president, when he left office, he had a very famous speech warning about the military-industrial complex and contractors and that stuff. And it's something to go back and look. And I think history has really proven him right. You know, because in many cases, wars
He
are
actually,
funded by
he
those.
did.
Yeah.
He went out there. Yes, he did. He warned people about it.
Mm-hmm.
He actually went. He did a whole speech. I remember his speech.
Yep.
And he said that this is a very dangerous thing. That's the military industrial complex, and we're going to keep doing it as America. It's how you keep the factories working. It's how you keep the people in money.
Yep.
Basically. So, but at the end of the day, what did you think?
I loved it. I mean, I do miss it was a little shorter than last year and didn't have some of the heavy equipment, but it was great. Again, I learned new things from you, from the host. That's what I love. Always learning. I may not agree with you, and I may not agree with other people based on my outlook, what my, how I think from this side. But you know what? I am listening. I do evaluate the facts, and I appreciating learning new information, new perspectives, and it's a wonderful thing. I think it was wonderful. I learned a few things. I got to spend time with you as always, which is wonderful. The wonderful chat that helped out, and look forward to next year again.
I did. I have to say, I was expecting a little bit more from the fighter jets.
Yeah. Well, next year you'll have to be in Moscow and do it live yourself.
You know what they're gonna do? My mom's gonna send me some videos later, but when it gets dark, that there is gonna be a lot of fireworks.
Oh, that's cool.
There's gonna be fireworks everywhere. We won the war. We together, just like President Putin said, unity. He didn't say it was us. He said united we did. All of us together won over evil. That was evil. And that should never happen again. No race, no culture, no nothing should be put into a position where we exterminate people. That should never happen in life, ever. And this is why it's important to remember things like this and to never forget. Because when you start forgetting history, you can rewrite it and repeat the same mistakes. But we Americans, the Soviets, even again, we don't have anything against the German. The German population did not know what was going on. Even the Germans, the French, the Africans, the Chinese, everybody was fighting against this one thing, which is it. You can never, ever excuse, if you justify that to me, that kind of ideology, then get the hell out of here. I never want to be your friend. I don't want to talk to you. Bye-bye. I'm sorry. You don't take a certain person based on their ethnicity and exterminate them. You can't do that. Because it wasn't just the Jews. It was also the Slavic people that he wanted to exterminate. If I was alive back then, I probably would be in a concentration camp because I'm Slavic. But how do you know? Like, did you take a DNA test or something? Or I could pass as a German and I'm blonde. But this is what people had to go through. And America is kind of like living in their own little thing, their own little bubble. And then all of a sudden you have the factories are producing things and doing things. And then Roosevelt's like, oh yeah, now we're going to join the war because of Pearl Harbor. But where were you when we needed you? But, oh, now you're attacked. Now you want to join. Okay.
Well, a lot of that had to do because America at the time did not want to get in another war after World War I. They were very isolationist. They looked at Europe as not their business. The very strong sense of isolationism. A lot of that information was not readily known either about what the Nazis were doing over there in Europe either. But you got to remember that. I agree. History looks back in judgment and we can look back. But at the time, it was a completely different climate, although there is still the isolationist.
Hello, Teddy. Hi. Dimitri says, yeah, World War II was a horrible thing. That should have never happened. Exactly, but it did. And we learned our lesson and we never repeat that.
Yep.
And again, unity. Diplomacy. We sit down at a table, we talk. We don't. There was a point, actually, I want to bring this up. I did not like the fact that they were talking about like, oh, we have the best like submarines and we have all this nuclear power. Like I get where they're coming from. But also, it kind of felt like, hey, like, my boo-boo's bigger than yours, kind of thing. And it just, it didn't, I don't know, it was kind of cringe. I kind of tapped out at that point.
It's kind of like, you know, especially in an age when there's strained relations already, it's like, especially in a broadcast like this, it's supposed to be for everybody and you're focused on unity and you got that, well, we're bigger than you. I mean, granted, the U.S. deserves some of that, but for this, it wasn't. So.
Hey, Abe, yeah, Abe says, my grandfather was in one of those concentration camps. He nearly died. He fell off one of the towers. Yeah. My whole country became a camp under the Japanese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has a story, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what's important, is that we share those stories and have a way to remember, not forget. So, what do you have coming up?
What do I have coming up? Well, later tonight at 9 o'clock, I'll be doing the normal Saturday night squirrel streams, Dadman and Friends. Late Night with Dadman and Friends says that will be tonight. Next week, I'm not sure. Monday, I may do some Fortnite. Tuesday night, maybe back to sports. So then, of course, I don't know, as many times as I can hoodwink you into doing a get over it.
And your channel is
Dadman Walking 55. You know, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Dadman Walking 55 is where you'll find me at all three. Best thing is to follow me on Twitter to see when I go live. Yes, ma'am.
No, yeah, I am.
Yes. And by the way, check out my channel, because last night Anna was on. We went almost 4 hours again on our Get Over It about the 2026 Met Gala.
Oh, yeah.
Flashbacks about bad fashion.
Yeah. Bad fashion.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Is that
Dimitri?
Dimitri? Well, thank you, Dimitri. Thank you for the sub. Appreciate it. Much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated. So I want to say again, thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thank you, Dadman, for being here. I know I started really early.
Yeah, I was starting to rest. I was going to take a nap, and I'm like, holy crap!
I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep it playing.
Sometimes that's the best way to do it. Just go, yeah.
Yeah, but let me just do one thing. I do want to make sure that yes, I do. Okay, great. I'm so professional. Yes. I'm Russian.
Oh, shoot.
They said in the thing, we're Russians, we have the best submarine. Yeah. And the guy was like, yeah, the Russians are better than the Americans. And okay. Well,
and I got to really quickly apologize. I typed under your chat. I forgot it's not me and the missus. But thank you, Dimitri. I could not figure out how to get the characters to spell your name, but thank you for the sub. I'm sorry, Anna. I messed up again. I touched buttons.
That's okay. I touch buttons all the time. But thank you, everybody, and happy Victory Day. I hope everybody has a good day, and never forget, remember those who actually made us not speak German.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, where my head is cold, crazy. Hey, where's Mishka? He's out there, crazy, crazy. We're vodka, crazy, crazy. We love trees and other such things. What things? Oh, crazy, crazy, crazy. Russia, rush dance. Crazy, crazy Russian. Let's dance.
Crazy, crazy Russian. Crash now in Kamaz. What happens to Zhiguli? Where is the bear? Do you love Russia? Do you love Anastasia Matroshka? Ludmila Matroshka, Svetlana Matroshka, Svetlana Matroshka, Lubov Matroshka.
Let's dance. Crazy American, crazy. Dance with me. It's some bush. матрошка. We love Anastasia, матрошка. Людмила, матрошка. Светлана, матрошка. Love, матрошка. Любовь, матрошка. No, матрошка. Матрошка. Let's dance. Crazy America. Crazy America. It's so матрошка. It's so матрошка.